All right, we will call the work session to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Roach? Commissioner Haynes?
Here.
Mr. Bowers? Here. Mr. Pettit? Here. Mayor May?
Here, we have a quorum present, and just to remind everyone, this is a work session. We apologize that we're meeting in this room. It seems like it's more formal when we meet in here, but we want you to be relaxed. If you have items that you want to talk about on the agenda, even if it's down the agenda, we have a spot on the front of the meeting called Citizen Comments. So that's the time that we would ask anyone that wants to speak on an issue, or even if it's not on the agenda, feel free to come up. Just if you don't mind coming to the lectern. You don't have to say your address, but if you wouldn't mind just letting us know your name for the record so the city clerk can log that in case we need to contact you. So the first item, and for whatever reason I don't have my agenda for the 25th here. Okay, thanks. We'll go ahead and ask for any citizen comments on any topics that you'd like or anything that's on the agenda. And if you just come and do it. Margaret, Norman? That'd be great.
Do you want me to just tell you what I want to tell you about, or go on and tell you?
Sure. And just I'd like to state your name for the record for the clerk, please.
Margaret Townsley. And I'm speaking for myself and my husband, Ernie Lewis, in support of Pay As You Throw.
Okay.
We think it's a wonderful program environmentally because as individuals, you've made it so easy that we recycle more, and we like being responsible. We think it's great for the city, and we're very proud of Frankfort for doing that. We think it's a valuable cost-saving measure, and we like being able to save money because we recycle. We think because it's a new program and you've invested in the equipment, the materials, we hope that you will give it a chance to live up to its full potential because we think it's really neat. So we're in favor of it and hope you'll keep it.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Ms. Gibbs.
I have several items that I'd like to address, one of which Pay As You Throw.
And do you mind coming over? So it's okay.
Well,
If you, and it's one of those things too, if you really don't want to do it, we really wouldn't make you do it for a work, but it just helps us for the clerk to get it on the record.
I do not mind talking, you know. Ann Gibbs. I don't know, I think what I'm asking, if this is the right time to discuss like code enforcement and the architectural review programs, the Pay As You Throw, the Indoor Recreation Study Committee, or would those of us who are interested in it, would we be allowed to wait until that particular subject comes up for discussion and then participate, or how do you want to do it?
Well, unfortunately, under our rules, we just do the citizen comment at the front, and so until we discuss changing those, I have to enforce the...
I have to talk now.
If you don't mind.
I'm fully in support of Pay As You Throw. I don't see a thing wrong with it the way it is right now.
Okay.
I have a neighbor who, for the first time in his 72 years, is recycling. He never bothered with it before, and he's doing it now. I like the new cans. They're easy. They are so easy to handle. I don't see a thing wrong with what we've got. As far as code enforcement and architectural review programs, I'm going to withhold comment because I don't know exactly what the recommended changes are, but anything that can reduce some of the hoops you have to go through for such modern things as storm windows or replacement windows, I think is going to make it easier for everybody. And box gutters aren't worth crap. I'm sorry, they just aren't. And the Indoor Recreation Study Committee. I want to say about the year 2002, there was a study done, an extensive and an expensive study done by Branstetter Carroll on the parks and recreation's needs. I don't know if any of you new people were aware of that, or if you've seen it.
I've seen it.
Mr. Haynes?
I have not seen it.
You might want to get a copy and look at it.
Thank you.
Good bit of money and a good bit of time and effort went into it. I have a copy, and I've been very impressed with what they have done on it. I have a problem with any changes concerning Parks and Recreation that have not been vetted by the Parks Advisory Board. And I'm not real sure if this Indoor Recreation Study Committee has gone through that process. I wish, or I would hope, that Indoor Study Committee has access to that Branstetter-Carroll report. I don't like to see the wheel reinvented. And along that line, I have serious, serious problems with a public and private partnership. That has been discussed before concerning recreation needs and was voted down previously when the Y wanted to go into a partnership with the city. The city does not have sovereign immunity, which the county does. And any kind of public-private partnership is going to leave the city wide open to liability problems. And I hope you all would keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gibbs.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
My name is Jen Spangler-Williamson. I live at 407 Wapping Street. I'm an architect with a design practice in the city. I'm employed by the Kentucky Heritage Council, and I'm a past member of the Architectural Review Board. I'm here because I understand that there is some discussion about changing or maybe even abolishing Article 17, the Historic Preservation Zoning Ordinance, and I want to hear that discussion firsthand. I am particularly concerned about a discussion that would remove the ordinance entirely, not only because it would allow demolition in our historic districts by right, but also because the historic zoning is the base zoning, and the ARB reviews conditional use permits. So I wonder what kind of uses, commercial, industrial, etc., might be introduced without public hearings into our historic districts, much of which are residential-based zoning. I wonder, without this zoning, what kind of economic and political forces might be compelled to assemble multiple adjacent properties in South Frankfort to develop state headquarter locations mere blocks from the capital, rather than develop these uses within existing historic neighborhood. We have three distinct historic zones in Frankfort: Special Capital, which is South Frankfort; Special Historic, which is my neighborhood in North Frankfort; and the Central Business District, which is the St. Clair Broadway area of downtown. These districts vary in the number of their properties, their construction type, and the general condition of their remaining historic features. Our current ordinance has some distinction between these districts with regard to material allowances and restrictions. South Frankfort properties, for example, have been allowed by ordinance to install vinyl fences and siding. This fact, coupled with the replacement window boom of recent years, has created a great deal of confusion in which homeowners mistakenly assume that historic windows may be permitted to be replaced by vinyl. Unfortunately, many replacement window salesmen fail to advise homeowners that window replacement, like any other major exterior work, conventionally requires a building permit. Once enough vinyl siding or vinyl replacement windows are introduced into a district, it is understandable that a neighboring property owner will question why these products would not be allowed on their own home. In my time on the ARB, this phenomena appeared to be generally limited to South Frankfort Special Capital Zone, while generally properties in North Frankfort were coming in front of the board for the approval of signage or awning details. So I understand the interest in studying the historic zoning ordinances, but I encourage the Commission to remember that there are these distinctions between the zones, and removing the ordinance entirely could have a tremendous impact on the look and feel of South Frankfort in particular. So please do not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your service on the ARB. Does anybody else have any? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name's Vicki Berenberg, and I live at 311 Wilkinson. I am also the state certified local government coordinator for the state of Kentucky, and you may know that Frankfort is a certified local government. That designation is given to local municipalities who enter into agreements, a partnership with the State Historic Preservation Office and the National Park Service, because they have made preservation planning a priority in their communities. And the city of Frankfort has benefited from that relationship and designation in that they've been eligible to apply for grant money for preservation activities over the years. I think Gary might speak a little more to that topic during his section of the presentation, but I also want to make some comments as a local property owner in a historic district. Especially because some of the conversation seems to be directed towards the elimination of the preservation ordinance, which would also eliminate your participation in the CLG program. Local historic districts increase property values. I know this professionally, but I also know it from personal experience of owning property in 3 different states. The results of the studies on this topic are remarkably consistent. In the majority of cases, property values in historic districts increase at a rate greater than the market as a whole. In the worst case, property values appreciate at a rate equivalent to the market. Local regulations to protect the integrity of the district result in greater property value increases than National Register designation alone. Local preservation ordinances help to support economic activity associated with heritage tourism. Heritage tourists visit longer and spend more money in their destinations than other types of tourists. Frankfort has to compete with other towns that have a preservation program for heritage tourism dollars. Destination towns like Bardstown, Danville, and Paducah all have preservation ordinances in place to protect local resources. They are all also certified local governments. There are nearly 50 communities in Kentucky with a local preservation ordinance to protect their irreplaceable assets. When you think of a town worth visiting in the state, chances are they have a preservation ordinance in place to keep it worth visiting. I relocated to Frankfort from the city of Chicago in 2009 when I took a job with state government. I was attracted to Frankfort's intact historic downtown. I am someone who would only consider living in a historic neighborhood because I am attracted to authenticity and a pedestrian-friendly atmosphere. When I decided to purchase property in Kentucky, Frankfort's preservation ordinance allayed my fears of investing here. I have invested nearly $100,000 in my property since 2010. I would not have made that kind of investment without regulation in place to protect it. I needed assurance that my neighbors would be held to the same standard as me. I have been, however, disappointed with the enforcement of the property maintenance code, which, in my opinion, dampens the potential for property value appreciation. The problem in the historic district is lack of enforcement, not regulation. All of my improvements were approved administratively. There was no red tape or appearances before the ARB. The ordinance allows almost everything to be approved administratively if you are maintaining the historic integrity of your property. Local historic districts rank high nationally on quality of life indicators. If you eliminate the ordinance or allow the integrity of the district to disappear, you erode the value of an asset that makes Frankfort desirable as a place to live and visit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anyone else? Oh. And then Mr.
My name is George Lehman. I am a industrial and business planner with Bluegrass Area Development District, and Rebecca just gave me the nudge back there and said I needed to get up during this time and basically be here to answer any questions that you all may have concerning the lengthy list of resolutions that you have in your packet, and basically that have to do with the community development block grant process. Just to remind you right now that the city does have 2 active CDBGs, one being the Next Life facility, which is an economic development CDBG. The other is the Home Street project that we're basically getting ready to start on now. So basically, I'm here to address those. If this is the proper time to address those, Mayor. If not, I'll sit down and wait.
We'll probably ask you some questions about that when we get to that point.
That's just fine. I will sit down and wait then.
That's okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then,
I'm Britton Skinner with Downtown Frankfort, and I'm going to try and divide my 5 minutes into 3 equal parts. First of all, I'm here to say that on behalf of DFI, we do support Article 17, a historic preservation ordinance. It actually is something that is required for us to exist as a certified National Main Street program. So I just want you to keep that in mind as we go forward in that discussion. Also, a little bit later on, I know Robert Hewitt is here from the county to talk a little bit about the Green Streets program. And DFI is very much in support of this. We have an absolute jewel of a judicial center coming online. Very excited to have that in downtown. And I've seen some of the designs for the sidewalk improvements directly in front of the judicial center and then at the corner of Wapping and St. Clair. And we're really excited about those. I mean, they're beautiful, they're ADA accessible, they're just going to really accentuate this great new construction we've got coming in. Along those lines, we would like to urge, DFI would like to urge the city to consider continuing that design on the intersection of St. Clair and Main Street so that that full block has the same sort of sidewalk treatment, and also to improve the ADA accessibility at that corner. We would also suggest that you look at the opposite side of the street, the opposite side of St. Clair between Wapping and Main Street for that kind of continuation of sidewalk improvements. You know, we're getting ready to welcome all of those folks back into downtown with the Judicial Center. I just feel like this is a great time to go ahead and make it uniform, make it look great, and would urge you to consider this. And lastly, down at the bottom, we have our annual letter of commitment is coming up for your signature, and we would, of course, urge you to consider continuing the, or urge you to continue the partnership that Downtown Frankfort has had with the city. So, appreciate it.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Hi, my name is Mike Radicke. Like a lot of people, I worked in Frankfort and lived in Louisville for more than 2 years, almost 3 years. Did the commute every day, and it was the beautiful and intact historic neighborhoods in Frankfort that convinced me to stop doing that commute and to move. I live at 4 Lions Court. It's a very modest craftsman house. It's under 1,000 square feet, and I'm halfway through putting about $40,000 worth of improvements in it. And that's not an investment I would have made if there wasn't, you know, this architectural review board and these protections, not to keep me from doing something wrong, but to keep my neighbors from doing something wrong that would reduce my property values. You know, a really inappropriate addition, a really sort of, you know, tearing out beautiful wood windows and putting in ugly vinyl windows, those things really have a dramatic effect on your property values. Conversely, having, you know, these great protections increase your property values. And, you know, I think for people to continue to be moving to Frankfort and to continue to be investing in our downtowns and to continue to continue this trend of making this better and better, we really need these protections. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, go ahead. We're trying to be informal. I know it seems more formal because we're here, but just don't worry too much about it. Just go ahead and stand up and walk to the podium if you want to.
I'm Harry Carver. I live on Watson Court. And I just wanted to make a few comments about as we look at how the historic preservation ordinances work or don't work. One of the things, I guess first and foremost, I think we really need to have a very thoughtful discussion about why things aren't working the way they should be. I sat on the ARB for several years, and it was very difficult to look at a property owner who wanted to replace her windows when the house next door was falling apart, and it had been cited time and time again, and nothing ever happened. We went through this hell a few years ago when that building was torn down on 3rd Street. That place had been cited 10 years before it was torn down, and nothing ever happened. So, I mean, we really need to think about why things aren't working. I mean, the reason we have the historic districts is protecting integrity, to protect our property values. Well, you're not protecting our property values if we're allowing houses to fall down and buildings to fall down. So just ask that we just, take a little bit of time to think about why it's not working. It might not be the way it's written. It might be how we're enforcing it or how the processes work. The other thing that, one of the things that comes up over and over again, and I know that folks in the business community fuss about this a lot, is that, they say Frankfort's a hard place to do business. Several years ago, and I guess it was when Gippy took office, he did this big, meeting out at the, whatever it was, Extension office. I know I can see it, but I can. And, there were all these groups formed. Everybody talked about it. There were 100 and some people there. And one of the things that was almost every group came up as part of their, one of their most important things that could happen to make city government work better for people is have some sort of ombudsman function. Because people have the worst time wading through the rules. Not that the rules aren't necessary, that they're there, but, surely to God we can figure out a way to get folks through the process without it being as painful and long as it can be at times. So anyway, thank you.
Oh, thank you, too. Joe.
I just want to make a couple comments as a private... Sorry.
There you are.
Name, please.
John Rogers, 311 Wilkinson Street.
Sorry, John.
It's okay.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Should know the drill by now.
That's okay. They just like
I've been up here how many times the last few weeks?
Like 3 meetings in a row.
Yeah. Anyways, I want to make a couple comments. As a private citizen who endorses Article 17, I think I'm in agreement with a lot of people that there's some flaws in it, maybe some redundancies, maybe some things that need to be addressed, but I would like to talk about why I think it's important. I know that it's important because I've spent the last 2 years helping my girlfriend restore the windows on our house, which is not on an individual structure on the National Register, but it's in the accompanying district. It was built sometime between the 1870s. I mean, even the windows themselves have latches. They, despite being painted over for 100 years, are still functioning. They still have the stamp on the bottom of when they were patented in 1875. And to me, that was an awesome responsibility to think about somebody installing windows in a house less than 10 years after the Civil War. And here I am restoring these windows looking out at John Y. Brown's house, the first U.S. Senator, a man who read law with Thomas Jefferson, carriage step of General Lafayette. These are men who, laid the foundations of our country, and we're so lucky to have, this historical aesthetic right here, out our windows. And so it was an awesome responsibility to restore these, but at the same time, it's very economically prudent. You look at our house, and you guys are welcome to come down there. The replacement windows in the back section of our house that we did not do are already failing. They're less than 10 years old. The argon steels have failed. They're cloudy. And actually, the windows that are 130 years old, despite the rot and stuff that I was able to consolidate, with a nice storm caulked in front of them, look a lot better and have about the same R value, and they're just doing actually better than the replacement windows. When it comes time to replace those, I probably won't put a replacement window in. I'll probably spend extra money and put in a better window because I know it will last longer and it'll maintain its value. How many people would put their how many people listen to vinyl in this room? Would you put your records, like out in the sun, like on the side of your house? They wouldn't last too long. And so the last meeting, I remember Gary said we have 1,400 properties in these historic districts. That's a lot of windows, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of economic development. It's a lot of this aesthetic integrity that's in this community, and people like that. People that lose weight, they can't walk in their neighborhoods because we did such a poor job of designing them, not just here but everywhere in America, that they have to literally come downtown to walk in the afternoon. And people get their senior pictures. Every year I watch a parade of people come over to Liberty Hall. It's where I got my senior pictures. And they've even stopped and taken pictures in front of our house. And they think about when your kids got their senior pictures. They don't go get their pictures taken up in the parking lot, at the pharmacy or, up on the east side or the west side. They get them taken downtown in Frankfort somewhere where it feels like it gives a sense of the community of like, where this is and where I'm from. Anyways, I don't know how close I'm getting, but I'm about done. So I wanted to take the time to say that I think Article 17 is much needed. It's a valuable part of this community. We're lucky that it's in place, and that there are a lot of communities just like Frankfort who unfortunately have seen a lot of their historic buildings and integrity interrupted because they don't have something like that in place. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay.
Hello, my name is Craig Potts. I live at 361 Garden Point. For the time being, because I am rehabilitating a building in the core of downtown Frankfort, turning the upper story that used to be offices into a residence, and I'm moving my family into it. Looking forward to being able to walk to work and take advantage of all the amenities that downtown has. This is the second building that we have purchased that had a lot of deferred maintenance, needed a lot of work. The first one we did was much worse. It was very close to being recommended for condemnation. Put a lot of money into both buildings, and a lot of time, a lot of sweat equity. It's very possible that that investment would not have occurred if not for the historic zoning ordinance. It's really important. What it does is essentially protect my investment by providing ground rules for everyone who develops in the neighborhood. And I really think of downtown as a neighborhood. I've had to go in front of the Architectural Review Board several times. One time to put an addition on the rear of the building that we're working on now. I've never had any problems. I've never had any issues. But I also educated myself on the process and what was required. And I think that's expected out of any developer who comes into this city. They need to familiarize themselves with the rules that are in place that we have enacted for the good of all the citizens. So I'm just up here to express my support for making good decisions. If decisions are made to alter anything, the ordinance is extremely important, particularly for me personally because of the substantial financial and investment I've made, and because I want to see downtown Frankfort, South Frankfort, the other historic districts, I want to see them continue to improve. I feel like they're on a really good trajectory right now. Things are constantly improving in terms of people investing. The ordinance is a key reason why that's happening, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. And go ahead, and then Bob.
Hi, my name is Liz Taylor, and I have a business at 233 West Broadway for Richard's Books. About the time I opened my business, a book came on the market called Blue Highways, where William Least Heat Moon walked across the country and made comments about the communities that he stopped in, one of which was Frankfort. And the comments he made were not very flattering to us. We had plastic or vinyl aluminum facades on buildings on Main Street. He pointed those out. It was another kind of commentary that was from a time past, but a time that didn't care what was going on. They were struggling to keep up with the urban sprawl, but not in a good way. Now, I have so many people come into my business and talk about how charming this town is, how perfect it looks, how it's not Disney, which is fake, we are real. And it's that fabric of buildings, some of them commercial, some of them residential over in the new Capital District, but it's that fabric that has that impression upon these visitors and makes them go out and talk about our town, want to come back, instead of William Least Heat Moon.
Well, thank you. I remember some of those old storefronts too. You're right. Much better. And Bob Halsford, do you want to?
Hi, I'm Bob Paulsgrove. I live on Wapping Street. I grew up in Frankfort, went to high school here. Lived away for about 15 years because, like a lot of people in my class, we thought Frankfort was a terrible place. I got a job with the Heritage Council about 40 years ago. I started looking for a house that I could move back. I was commuting from Louisville. I did that for 4 years, and like the other gentleman, I finally decided, especially after the winter of 77 and 78, not to commute. And so we came and we found a house and rehabbed it in the 100 block of Shelby Street and moved into it, and then had to move out with the flood. And I'd just like to say, after the flood, I didn't run to the suburbs or to the high ground. I stayed. I was on the flood wall study group, and it just strikes me as I have invested time and effort in the Architectural Review Board and writing Section 17, as it were. I've seen growing up around us on Wapping Street a whole new community, and I want to ask people here tonight who, if you're in preservation field or you're a professional or you've come and rehabbed a house in Frankfort, would you stand up just for a second? The people who've spoken. These are all professional people making a commitment to this community, or almost all living in properties that were not livable when they came here. They served on countless number of boards. Now, why would you want to make them mad? I mean, there are a lot of preservationists out there, and let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Bill McIntyre. I live in South Frankfort. I own 2 properties there, and I'm just very briefly speaking in favor of keeping our historic preservation regulations. I'm currently renovating a property on Logan Street. It's the building that is purple. Some of you have seen it, I'm sure. You know, that without those district regulations in place, there's a good chance that property would not have been there. And a lot of people look at a decrepit property and they see something they think just needs to be torn down. But some of us look at it and see an opportunity. And that's what I would like to preserve, because when you delay executions, demolitions, you're preserving opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, too. Anyone else?
My name is Natalie Wilkerson. I live at 510 Ann Street, a place where there are no historic regulations in place. I moved there from East Todd. We renovated a bungalow on East Todd. I'm a preservationist. It's the cutest house in South Frankfort, in my opinion. But I'll just speak from the standpoint of investing a whole lot of time and a whole lot of effort in preserving our current house, which we bought from the wonderful LaFontaine family who had owned it for 85 years. Our house, every extra money we have, we put into our house, and we do it because we love the house. We do it because we believe in the spirit of the ordinances that are in place in other historic districts in the neighborhood. And we hope to stay there, my husband and I, the rest of our lives, or until our kids kick us out. However, next door to us is a vacant house. It's been vacant for 10 or 15 years. I would sleep better at night. I would not feel the need to check on it every so often if there were historic guidelines in place. Because as it is, somebody could come in, walk into this office, or, well, not here, but you know what I mean, and apply for a demolition permit and get it, and the house next door to us would be gone. That would be detrimental to our quality of life, the quality of the property that we have. There are 2 vacant lots across the street from us. They've been vacant for several years. I don't even remember when there was anything in there. We preemptively bought them to protect ourselves from somebody else buying it and putting who knows what across the street. The guidelines, I would love it if we had our own set of historic guidelines or something like that, because I really believe that it makes a difference for the whole area. It supports the kind of things that we're trying to do in our house and that we believe in for ourselves, and we believe in for Frankfort, and what will make Frankfort a better place to live and visit and call home. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Roger.
I'm Roger Stapleton, East 8th Street. Mayor May, your first year as mayor, you appointed me to the ARB, and Mayor Graham unappointed me his first month when he was in office, so I had about 13 or 14 years there, of which 11 of them were as chairman. And I agree that there's some tweaking that could be done on this ordinance. Doing away with it would be one of the biggest disservices to this community that would ever happen. I can promise you, in all those years working with the staff, we helped 2 or 3 other people for every item that was on the agenda. And we spent a lot of time working with those individuals to better educate them. Frankfort is a show place. I'm not saying that it couldn't be improved, but what you all have invested in all these many years should not just be walked away from without a great deal of forethought in it. We were able to make a lot of great changes to Frankfort, and people are investing here now. Let's let the economy turn back around completely, and I think you're going to see a lot of large-scale investment going back into these communities. And the other thing I'd like to say, I don't know what the window installers and the fly-by-night construction guys would do if they could actually come into town on any day other than Saturday. You know, so. But I really want you all to consider improving this ordinance, putting some teeth behind it, not changing it and weakening it, but strengthening it. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. And, again, I said thanks to Jen, but also Harry and Roger, thank you guys as well for serving on those boards when you did. If there's no one else, if the commission doesn't object, since there's so many folks here for this one item, could we go on and hear the presentation on that? Unless, before I do that, I know we've got Mr. Kirkland and Mr. Jones here, and I'm trying to think, is there anybody else that we're going to, if there's an agenda item, I don't know, if y'all want to say anything tonight, you can. If you want to wait, you don't have to. You're saying no? Okay. I was just saying because I know you all are on the clock, so in fairness.
We can stay as long as you like.
I was kind of doing that for Mr. Terry, Mr. Harrod, and Butch, just so. So if there's, Commission member, do you all mind if we take the code enforcement and architecture review board programs from the discussion items and go ahead and move those up to the first item, unless there's somebody else here for any other item on citizen comments that hasn't been discussed. I don't want to make anybody wait. But at the same time, since the room is pretty much full with folks that want to talk about the ARB and planning kind of issues, if there's no objection, then we'll, sorry, one thing. Oh, okay. And if we could take the item under consent, items 7.18, which is the towing contract, and just take that for the March 25th meeting and take that from the consent items to the regular items, since there's going to be presentations from folks, or could be presentations, I'll put it that way. I'm not going to be presumptuous, think you will, but I feel like there will probably be presentations.
So we're just removing 7.1?
Well, leave it on the, but just take it and put it under,
put it under new business.
New business. Is that okay? Okay.
That would allow this.
And then that way you can have discussion on it. Okay, no objections? Thank you all for that. Okay. And of course, you're welcome to stay.
This would be for the 25th?
For the 25th. So would you have it on March 25th, if that's, okay. Thank you all very much. And we will not, if you all, we will not take that item up tonight without you all being here. So we'll give you that commitment. We will not discuss that since you're not here.
The tow truck, right?
All right. The commission had, I guess, directed staff to look at some items in the way that staff reviews or makes recommendations on various items under our ARB and other areas of planning and zoning. And let me say this before we go. I want to assure everyone too, having several generations of family here in the community, I appreciate deeply what all of you all have done to improve the historic area, the business areas, huge improvement. I think Liz mentioned the book of through highways, and I can remember some of the town on Main Street in particular, just some of the signs that used to be up there that were in need of being upgraded. So thank you all for what you all have done, especially those of you that have invested into residential property, but even more importantly, those that decided to locate your business in downtown Frankfort and to stay in downtown Frankfort and to continue your business for the number of years that you've done it, because I know you can go other places. But we appreciate that, and we always encourage folks to continue to support those business owners that are making their business in our community, and thank you all so very much for doing that. So Gary, I'm sorry, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I handed out a, looks like a PowerPoint presentation, but we're not set up for PowerPoint. There are black and white copies on the back by the other podium. Apologize they're not in color, but they're there.
And also, if anybody wants a copy that didn't get a copy, we can email that to you. If you'll just let us know, you can let the city clerk know and just leave your email. So if you want to, is there a sign-in sheet in the back? We have a sign-in sheet. We can put something back there, or you can just catch us afterwards. Sorry.
So with, based on our last meeting, I was asked to go over property maintenance code, the property maintenance board, the architectural review board, Article 17, which is the historic preservation ordinance. I've heard from a couple of you on that, so I tried to address some of those items. Not a lot of direction, to be honest. So I gave it my best shot, and we'll elaborate a little bit on some of this, but otherwise I'm short. We're probably going to have continued discussion on this to get more details. The first page is something I've given you in the past. It's a one-page summary of our citywide sweep. We do that in December for the abandoned property ordinance. I did update some of the information in here based on some of the comments that I've received from the commissioners. The following page is our code enforcement summary for 2012. That was part of our annual report. And this is broken down. We had 813 complaints that we investigated that were non-duplicate. 521 were citizen complaints. 24 went to the board out of the entire bunch. That meant all the rest were either invalid or were administratively worked with the owners, so they didn't have to go to the board. Of those 24, only 6 actually were appealed, where the owner said, I want my day before the board. So that's a great thing to be able to report to you all. We had 10 district court items that are being processed or have been processed. And then the reality of anything we do with abatement, whether it's cutting grass, boarding up a structure, tearing down a structure, any of those elements that the city ends up doing and paying for, we put a lien, we send a bill to the owner, 90% of the time a lien is created, 18%. Our liens currently outstanding is $284,000 and change. They are at the bottom of the totem pole of each one of those properties. When it's submitted, that's at the bottom of that list of any other lien. Unlike a tax lien or a state lien, those are at the top. We did collect $1,948 in liens.
It's a low percentage, but I know, just kidding.
It was a win.
Better than nothing, right?
The following page deals with our architectural review board. 2012, we had 21 cases that went before the board. 3 of those were denied. 456 permits, building and zoning permits were reviewed. Of those, 75 were in historic districts. We issued 134 new business licenses in 2004. 21 were in historic zone property. Rental inspections, that's part of the property maintenance code. We collected $22,136 in 2012. The fiscal calendar, not calendar. And we inspected 1,618 individual units. That's a very good service for a very low cost. At the last meeting, there was some comments about the last task force and their recommendations. So the following page is the 2004-2005 recommendations. I identified what's been done or in the process of. The majority of them have been done. We have not increased staff. That was a recommendation. We do get training. We are more proactive by doing the annual sweep in December. And when we go to a site, we cite all violations, not just what we're there for. And a new technology equipment. We do have a new system. Just about ready to walk out the door with it. We're making some final tweaks, but we're very happy and excited about that. And it will make it much more efficient, and we'll actually be able to do things in the field, unlike now. And the last one was talks about sidewalks, and the city did change that a couple years ago. Where the owners no longer have to maintain their sidewalks. So that was all positive. I think we've done just about all their recommendations. So some suggested changes or items to consider rather than suggested changes. We had 118 violations that I found in December that dealt with trailers, campers, RVs, boats, or cars or trucks parked on grass. And I did review our property maintenance code is based off an international code that's nationally recognized and adopted. Every 3 years they come out with a new one. I looked at 06, 09, and 2012, compared it to our current adopted version. They are very similar. There's only been a minor wordsmithing changes to it. So we're right in line. There are 4 areas that we have that the international code does not have. So I thought I would bring that to your attention. One is rental inspections. International property maintenance code does not address communities going out and doing a rental program. There are communities that do. We're one of them. And I think it's a very good service that we do provide. Pods, your portable on-demand storage units. It's not in the national book, but it's something that we saw as a problem. Got a few complaints, so we regulate those, meaning they can only stay for a certain amount of time on the same piece of property, then they can supposed to go away. So they don't stay there and become sheds forever. Exterior furniture, that is not in the international code. It is something that the city felt strong enough, and we tweaked it just a few months ago as well. Trailers, things that are pulled behind a vehicle are not regulated in the international code section. Several communities do. We're one of them, meaning it can't be on grass. Has to be on a paved surface, whether it's boat, camper, RV, cars, trucks. So that's the section. And the last one, the international code does require when the structure has peeling paint to be painted. The city has a percentage threshold. It's 15%. The international code doesn't. It's 0. So if there's any peeling paint anywhere, you're supposed to immediately paint it. We have a 15% rule. So we're less restrictive in that category. So things to consider. Again, didn't hear any suggested changes from the commissioners. So I threw out 4 things to consider. Consider allowing trailers, campers, boats, and other items that are towed behind the front elevation of the house, meaning not in your front yard. Whether it's on grass, whether it's on a brick, however it is, wherever it is, make that to be okay. That would eliminate a lot of staff time going out and looking at these. And again, the owner can remove it and put it back the next day. So it just keeps going. Cars, RVs, driving vehicles, those should be on a paved surface. If you have a towed vehicle, a towable vehicle, trailer, that's in the front of the house, great, fine, just needs to be on a paved surface. So that's the things to consider. A nuisance board, this was discussed 2 years ago. A nuisance board is very similar to a code enforcement board. However, by statutory law, their lanes are at the top, right under state tax and city tax.
Gary, city manager needs to ask you
Yes.
questions.
Go back to number B, when you say paved surface in front of the home, you're not talking about the roadway or the right-of-way, you're talking about on the private property?
Correct. A driveway or what we call California pavement, the two little strips. Today, we allow trailers to be on a couple of bricks. As long as it's on their tires, it's okay. It's on a paved surface. It's not fully paved, but it's on a paved surface. It keeps the ruts in the grass nicer.
Is this a good time to ask questions, or should I wait?
You don't mind if we... However you want to, by all means.
I just had I guess a comment. So I'll put it to you like, what if? I'm just envisioning or imagining a situation where somebody's having a lot of friends over to the house, and there's not enough paved surface for friends' cars. And in some places, like where I live, there's no parking, you can't park on Collins Lane. So do we have like time limits on that for more than X number of hours? Because I can see where, and I think right now we don't allow it at all, and I know some citizens have been cited for having a vehicle on their lawn, but in some situations, vehicles on the lawn are a better option than the alternative of parking on streets and making the streets hazardous. Can you address that?
Yes, we had to. The city commission did change that regulation 3 years ago, I believe. If you have a car for sale, you can actually put it in your yard for 30 days. As long as it's got a for sale sign, it can be there.
Okay.
The general rule is 24 hours if it's otherwise. So it accommodates that, and we work with individuals if they have a graduation party and they know that grandma's going to be there for a week. We try to work with them, but we just don't want the ruts to,
Okay.
the grass to become ruts and then
Thank
an
you.
eyesore.
Thanks, Gary.
So back on C is the nuisance board. Again, it's elevated, its things are elevated. There are different criteria that we would have to establish, a whole new ordinance and board members, but that could be done. And if we go that route, I would suggest things that we typically have as abatement, boarding up structures, demolitions, those should go before a nuisance board because that costs the city a lot of money. And we would get that money should it transfer on the courthouse steps or through an auction or any other means of being sold. We are likely to get that lien dollar amount, unlike the current version of the Code Enforcement Board. That's something to consider. Finally, I do recommend that the City Commission meet with its Code Enforcement Board members and discuss your goals, policies, and vision of the city's property maintenance program. If they have an understanding and hear it directly from you what your views and thoughts are, you're not telling them how to vote. You're just telling them how you think, how you feel, and what your goals and policies for the city are. And that may assist them. If they're totally against it, they may say, hey, I'm going to fight this, or they may say, you know, I need to resign and let someone else be on this. I have no idea how it will be, but I think it would definitely help in that aspect. The biggest hurdle that staff has with the property maintenance code isn't the regulations. It's the time that it gets for us to get to the board. And then the board at times will give someone 6 months, they'll give someone a year to correct that violation. And we still have to cite the next person we get the very next day, the same process, the same thing. And they might not get 6 months or 60 days or a year. It's very difficult for staff. I'm sure it's difficult for the citizens. And I just have to explain they went to the board and they got more time. We are limited to 30 days. We can only give one 30-day extension. That was done in 2009 also. So, and we also post properties that get a citation now. That's a change, and that has helped to let the neighbors know at least something's being looked at besides the newspaper. As far as the code of ordinances, amend the cafe permit to allow more uses for more areas and tenants. It's pretty limited right now. It's only for restaurants. If you own an office building downtown and some other restaurant wants to open up a cafe shop on that sidewalk, they can't do it. If they want to use that sidewalk for just about anything else, can't do it. So I think there's a lot of opportunities we could add for those tenants by amending that cafe permit in that ordinance. It hasn't been amended in, I don't know if it's ever been amended, not in 11 years anyway. So just something to consider. And then I do believe we should actually require a permit and a fee for encroachment permits of the right-of-way. When a driveway is cut and you want to close off the sidewalk, you want to do a portion in something that deals with the right-of-way, I believe there should be an actual permit with a fee. Right now there is a, to my understanding, there's a permit but no fee, and I'm not sure how the inspections are done. It's a different department, but I did go out there and suggest that. And lastly, the abandoned property ordinance. This has come up in the past recent, and the way it's structured on abandoned property ordinance, if it is deemed as abandoned, then their property tax, or city property tax portion, is tripled. It's assessed in December. We find out, the owners find out no later than March. They can appeal it up through May 31st. And come July, PVA and the finance office knows exactly who's on that list. Come October, the bill is sent for the prior year's taxes. If ownership has changed any time in that time period, the new purchaser is hit with a triple fee of that property tax. And the biggest complaint I've heard about this ordinance is that why isn't the individual responsible at the time of the abandoned property determined get a fine? So you may want to consider that, put a flat fine, or leave it as is, or come up with a different way. But that is the number one complaint I get in that category. The other issue is you have one of the triggers. Yes.
Let's say Rob said he can actually address that if you don't. Go ahead.
I was just going to indicate that the fact that the tax is increased, so that's 3 times the normal tax rate, has been effective in making people pay attention to the taxes that are owed and also to their property. And if you fine someone, that fine, if they don't pay it, you would have to file a lien, and the lien is going to go way down at the bottom, whereas the tax, has a much higher priority, so that keeping the triple tax rate makes your program much more effective, because the tax has to be paid first instead of mortgages and other liens later down. So you should carefully consider that before making any change.
And and if I may, it was discussed heavily and a lot by the City Commission on how it came up with its fine system. But it's, again, it's a comment I hear, so I'm sharing that with you all.
Thanks, Gary.
And this is based upon the statute that's in effect in the Kentucky Bryant statutes. We just took the language out of the statute and lumped it into our ordinance.
There was a suggestion that I had made to the City Commission a few months ago about this, was there's no penalty if you're on the abandoned property list, and whether it's for delinquent taxes and you're still not, people are living in these structures that have delinquent taxes. They're not abandoned, but they're delinquent taxes. There's no ramification or encouragement to get them to pay those, meaning if the owner or tenant wants to come in and get a business license, we give them a business license. They want to add on to that structure, we give them a permit. Same fee as everybody else pays. There's no incentive, counter incentive for them to pay that delinquent tax. That's not written, but that is one that I've shared with a couple of y'all. So on Article 17, First and foremost, we have a membership criteria. There's 5 members. One of those criteria is that a member has to be a member of the AIA, which is the architect registered. It's been vacant for a year and a half, I believe. We have asked the AIA to recommend. We have advertised. We have solicited. We've asked former members that have resigned or have left to come back. So I would suggest we change the ordinance to either keep it as AIA or just remove the AIA and add a business owner in the downtown or a member of DFI. I think it may be easier to obtain a volunteer in that aspect. But that one criteria we're having very difficulty filling. Therefore, the board's only 4, and if 2 are gone, we don't have a meeting. Because you have to have 3 to have a quorum.
Can I ask you one question? If we could still change that, so they could still be an architect, but don't not to be a member of the American Institute of Architects.
Yes, so there could be or one or the other, not all mandatory yet.
I know we have architects that are in the city. Just for some reason, a lot of them aren't AIA members.
Correct. So that's either of those scenarios. That just needs to be looked at. We received an annual evaluation from the Heritage Council on our CLG status. There are, I believe, 5 recommendations, and I apologize I didn't make copies of it, but I will have them in your box this evening or tomorrow morning. One of those suggested, the first one is critical, and that is our board members themselves haven't received the minimum training required in the past year. We've identified that to them and have strongly encouraged them to get their training. And if they do not obtain training within the next 12 months, we will lose our CLG status. So I believe they will all obtain it. I also believe the criteria is only 1 hour. So hopefully we can make that happen. The other suggestion was that, this is a map, and I apologize to the public, but you can't see it. This is our zoning map. And this is a zoning map of only our 3 historic districts. So the architectural board only applies to the areas that are shaded in color. And Article 17 only applies to these 3 areas. It suggested that we change our, the evaluation suggested we amend our code, take the guidelines out of the text and make it more of a document, easier to read, and break it down into areas because it's as agreed upon, or at least the feeling is not every part of all of our 3 historic districts are exactly the same. And yet we treat all 3 areas exactly the same when it comes to windows and gutters and exterior features. We treat them all exactly the same. So with that, I have made some suggestions. And that is we divide, we come up with 2 criteria basically, 2 areas. And basically we keep the central business district and the special historic district, where celebrities, downtown, and Capitol Avenue, but I broadened it, Capitol Avenue as the core, essential, very similar to what we have now. However, I did come across a document that was paid for by the Heritage Council because we were CLG back in the 80s. And it described, and it's very visual, and it's very easy to read. Unfortunately, it was never adopted. It was used by staff in the past. And it shows areas visible from the public street. And it shows staff how to look at things from the street. So if it was a window in the backyard, in the back window, and it wasn't the Frank Lloyd Wright home, you could change it administratively. You didn't have to go to the board. When I came in 2002, staff was doing that. And I said, well, that's not what our book says. Where is that written? No one could provide me that. So we followed the book. And that rule wasn't written, wasn't adopted, so it went away. About a year and a half ago, I found the documentation from the 80s that showed that being the case. But again, it was never adopted. Our comprehensive plan identifies the importance of historic properties, identifies the importance of historic preservation, encourages historic preservation in the white shaded areas, Capitol Avenue, downtown, corners of celebrities, and identifies those as important, and we need to preserve them. And we
May I
need
ask you
to.
something real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
The Second Street part is still blocked off. Is that just for form-based code purposes or just not to ever be included?
I left it out because of this. Right now, it's not under any local zoning for historic preservation.
Okay.
And I made my boundary map, my suggestions to y'all based on the current zoning that goes to ARB today.
Okay.
If Second Street Farm Code is adopted or a version of that, I imagine, and if this is a version that's supported, we can merge it all together, yes. But right now, I stuck with what's currently locally zoned and what's currently goes to ARB.
Okay. Thank you.
So the comp plan identifies the corridor on Capitol Avenue, and then the outer areas is kind of a yellowish green. Its comp plan calls it lower residential, same as Thornhill, same as Cloverdale, same as the Meadows. The majority of Frankfort, the older part, is just residential. It doesn't say one way or another about historic preservation. It does identify that it's a national historic district. So, nuts and bolts of it, and the biggest complaint I hear, and I have heard for 10 years, is we allow vinyl siding in all of South Frankfort. You have a brick house and you want to put vinyl on it tomorrow, you come to my office, I'll give you $10 on your permit for it. I'll strongly encourage you not to do it, but by law, they can do it. We changed the rule because of that if you have a shutter that's wood and you have vinyl siding, you can have a vinyl shutter by right. We've also allowed vinyl picket fences, actually on Capitol Avenue. But we don't let you have vinyl windows. And that is the biggest complaint I've heard over and over and over since I've been here. Sometimes the board approves them, sometimes they don't approve them. We had one denial in 2012. The owner chose not to do anything with the house. And it's now only been a populace. Because it's been vacant for 12 months and the windows need to be replaced or fixed. Gutters is the other issue. There's been a lot of weekend work. There's been a lot of pre-2012, well, if I can't see it from the street, you can go ahead and change it. So some windows were changed, some gutters were changed, some weren't. So the suggestion for consideration and further review and public input would be to basically, you've got your floor, keep Article 17, make some minor changes to what staff can, add a few things that staff can improve. As far as the outer areas of South Frankfort, allow replacement windows and gutters as long as the size don't change. So if you have a certain window size, you're going to replace it with vinyl or whatnot. You can replace it with a wood vinyl window today. If it's a window core and vinyl on the outside, I can administratively approve it. So anyone walking along the streets can't tell the difference. Well, if they're not a true preservationist, they can't tell the difference. There are differences. The negative part of that is any owner who opts to do that. Should we say, okay, we don't care about the material on these outer sides for gutters and windows, we're not going to qualify for state and federal tax credits. That portion definitely won't qualify, to my understanding. But if they do put in true wood windows or replacement, then they still qualify for tax credits, which is a great thing. But it would make the process a little easier. So that is one thing to consider. And that's C and B, and this is the map that reflects that. And then this last one is the same thing, just a little easier. I think to see. Of the two areas. I also believe that the City Commission should strongly consider using or creating a community assessment survey of its citizens that are located in the National Register districts and the local zoning districts. There are pre-made forms online. We could even apply for CLG funding to assist in that study, as long as we remain a CLG community. And that, I think, will enhance and show a lot of light on what is working, what's not working, what they feel, what things can be improved, added to, don't take away, don't reduce, all that. I think that'd be very valuable to have. Regardless, any of these changes that are for consideration can happen overnight. They all require public meeting, public input, public hearings by the Planning Commission, and then ultimately approval or denial by y'all. The last thing was, again, consider you all meeting with the Architectural Review Board, sharing your goals, policies, and views and vision of what the city ought to look like in preservation. If they understand that and hear it from you and know it, I think it would only help. That's hasn't been done to my knowledge in 11 years that I've been here at all. Not a one-on-one meeting, anyway. What's not on the list that I failed to put on here are incentives. Any and all, we need to come up with some incentives to encourage repair, encourage keeping of the historic properties, encouraging redevelopment, encouraging businesses to come. We need to have some incentives. We have very, very, very little incentives to offer, at least my department, and all of the city. And I think we should spend some time trying to come up with some good incentives to encourage both property maintenance and historic preservation. So obviously I support our Architectural Review Board and Article 17, and believe we should definitely stay a CLG at all possibilities and lead by example. So. The other part of this is just the maps that I have shared with you, other than the very back. If you wanted to see it, all the delinquent properties, as far as tax purposes, is the very last one. It's white, kind of hard to see, it's such a small scale, but there were a lot of them. And then the one that's red and yellow shows the suite, and that again I think was given to you back in January. I can give you full-size copies this size if you want them.
Well, we can come down and look at this one. Let me make sure I understood something you said earlier.
Yes, sir.
The Architect Review Board has 5 members, and you said they couldn't meet because?
It takes 3 to have a quorum.
Right.
And right now, technically, we only have 4 voted able to attend board members because one hasn't been filled in a year and a half. If 2 of them are on vacation, if 2 get sick, we don't have a quorum.
Well, I thought you were saying that because with just 4, you couldn't have one.
No,
wasn't following that.
I apologize, but yeah.
Okay.
So there's not a lot of wiggle room there. We count on them showing up.
I'm in charge.
You're in charge. Happy to answer any questions. Happy to schedule another meeting and do this more in detail on certain areas, whatever you like.
Let me ask you one other question, because we definitely need public input. I know you probably use some of the people on our side, like Envision, Franklin County, some of these other groups that are kind of working with you. What kind of public input have you had so far on this?
Zero. I didn't. Only input I sought or seeked out was from the Heritage Council because I needed to know. One of the questions I was asked is, what if we just get rid of it? What happens? So I had that answer prepared. I didn't want to promote it or state it because I don't support it.
We'll meet.
So this was all just based on complaints, questions, comments that I've heard from citizens throughout my tenure of being here. And the very little input I've gotten from the commissioners as far as specific changes that they want. Which is not a criticism by any means. It's just I'm trying to give it my best guess of what y'all are looking for.
Yeah, Gary, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that we are the closest residential neighborhood to any state capital in the nation. Is that, do you know if that's true? We have the closest residential homes to any other state capital?
It doesn't feel like it. I've been to Tallahassee, and there's office homes, historic, running right up the street. South Carolina, West Virginia,
We're fairly close.
Iowa. I've been to all of those capitals.
We're pretty close to the capital for a residential neighborhood to be there. That's a nice thing about Frankfort. The main thing I would like to see is modify, clarify, and ease of use for new and redevelopment, and just more clarification. And maybe it's an ombudsman is really just what we need, someone to help communicate to people when they come into town what they need to look for, what's the process, what are the steps, versus a frustration that seems to get told to me that Frankfort's a horrible place to do business. I have to go to meeting after meeting, no one tells me anything. And I mean, I like this map. Again, we need public input. We need to hear back from everybody, which can take months to do, but we have months to do stuff.
On that note, it's in the recommendation. I didn't emphasize it verbally. Setbacks. Right now, I have no authority or ability to tell anyone what their setback is. They have to go to the board. If they want to add a deck,
yeah,
they have to go to the board. That's not customer user friendly, and that needs to be changed.
Yes.
Quicker, in my opinion, because we tell the board how to do it and use an average of the block. Well, staff can do that and should be able to sign off on it, but it's not written that way right now. So.
And those are things that I think that need to get changed and to help with that, to help clarify, to help people understand, to help with the process. And help keep Frankfort as cute as it is, especially in downtown. But also, Garrett, I would love to see incentives looked at, and incentives not just for downtown, but the entire city, if there's things that can be looked at. I get told a lot through 2 campaigns that if we had 200 more people live in downtown, how rockin' businesses would be. You know, how more people would be down there, how much more lively it would feel. But how do we get 200 more people down there when you have census data that shows most people are getting older, and most older people I know, when I work in rehabilitation, don't want stairs anymore. They want a flat surface. They would love to have a storefront downstairs and some condos up front that overlook and you can see the river, yet they still take the elevator down and walk the city of Frankfort and carry their groceries home and be a part of the community where they have access to bus transportation and feel like they're a part of something versus being stuck in the suburbs. And those are things that I want to voice for people who voted me up here to say that's what we want, is some sort of way to connect the old with new redevelopment to make it easier for these people to come in, and we get the touch of the river. We get the touch of the community, and we get the touch of being able to live downtown with not having to put a $40,000 to $140,000 to $2 million into a property that's had flood damage for numbers of years, and actually feel a little touch of new with the class of the old. I hope that makes sense.
It does.
Well, Gary, I appreciate you providing all this information. Now, the people that spoke tonight, did they ever contact you?
Yes, but I hadn't had this presentation public or available, so they hadn't seen at this point in time. No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Where'd the mayor go?
He had to step out.
The House reconvened at 5:30, so he's got several things, so he's dealing with several telephone calls. So he's still working his day job.
All right.
Well, let me ask Rob a question. Rob, if somebody has a question from the audience, can they ask at this point?
The previous commission, we allowed them to, but I don't know if it's always,
It's the discretion of the commission at this point.
Could I ask Ann Gibbs to tell us what she needs to tell us?
Yes, I approve.
Have no problem, Ann.
Thank you. I'm very impressed with what I've seen of this document, and I just picked it up tonight. Gary did a hell of a lot of work on it, a hell of a lot of good work. I wondered, just thoughts, I haven't studied this, I intend to, and I hope possibly there could be public hearing, public meeting, where a little bit more citizen input can be had. But I wondered if it would be feasible to combine the nuisance board and the code enforcement board. That's just kind of off the top of my head. And I found section, page 3, under code suggestions, ARB Article 17, item A. Consider changing the ARB membership of AIA to business owner in downtown or member of DFI. This might could lead to non-city residents serving on the ARB board. And I'm not real sure I would like that. Because county, non-city residents can own a business in downtown and be a member of DFI. I do. I have a problem with that.
What page is that?
This page, where it says code suggestion. Or the next page.
What letter?
A.
A.
And I know, I'm sure a lot of you all in here think that I'm anti-rehab and I'm anti-historic this and anti-historic that. When I moved to Frankfort, I lived on Watson Court. My next move from there was to Capitol Avenue. My next move from there was to 4th and Conway. My final move has been to Marshall Court. I've never been out of an older section of town. I've never been out of a section of town that hasn't been ruled by the ARB, code enforcement, or whatever. So don't think I'm anti. Please. I want restoration, but I want it done so that little old ladies like me don't have to take 8 hours to wash 4 windows on my sun porch and put up and take down storm windows and screens. It took me 8 hours to do that for 4 stinking windows. And I now have replacement windows, and the job's done in half a day. I'm sorry. I'm all for replacement windows. They may not be original, but they sure are efficient, and they sure are easier to clean. Now, times change, and I just think we have to change with them. And I really didn't appreciate having to come down here to get approval to put in replacement windows. My street is 3 houses long, and nobody can find it. The city police at times have not been able to find it.
I know where you live.
Not that it's done much good, because you have not taken care of my problem. No, you haven't. But now why, with a street with 3 houses on it that's under Laurel Hill that nobody can find, do I have to jump through hoops to get storm windows?
Ms. Gibbs?
Sorry.
Is there a specific issue that you would like to address to the city commission?
Yes. Please take into consideration the locations of where these houses are, the exposures of these houses, and hold a public hearing. And I'm sure you'll get more horror tales of the loops that people have to go through to get something simple done.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments.
Or don't go through.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll now move up to the city manager report.
You want to go to discussion of tentative agenda?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Yeah. We'll give them a moment. George, I'll have you come up if you don't mind in this part.
Sure. I live here in Franklin County, so it's no problem. I'm here as long as you need me.
Yes.
Ramona, do you need a, do you think since everybody's leaving, we could take a 5-minute recess?
It's up to
Yes.
the board.
5-minute recess.
Do you need it?
You need a motion?
No.
No? Okay.
Well, if one of you will have to leave, then we should, because otherwise we're just stuck with 2 of us. So, yeah.
I just think it might be the best time since there's movement in the room, but the movement's quick now, so I'll recall my motion.
We're going to call a recess for 5 minutes. Okay.
Oh, we are? Okay. That's good.
Okay, we'd like to go back into open session.
Yes.
We're now back in open session, and we will start with the discussion of a tentative agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Haynes. Board members have a copy of the agenda in their packet. One item that was on the consent agenda, the towing contract, has been pulled off to be put on new business. On your copy, there's also a personnel item that will be removed. It's a retirement of a police officer that he decided not to retire, thankfully. But items 6.1 to 6.6 have to deal with requirements resolutions for requirements for CDBG grants. George Lehman from Bluegrass Ad is here just to explain why we have so many of those, and a lot of those places or items, rules that we are already following or should be following. So.
Thank you, sir. Again, my name is George Lehman. I am a industrial and business planner for Bluegrass Area Development District. I'm also a certified community development block grant administrator for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And so basically, you do have a long list of laundry items there in your packet that have to do with community development block grant. As I referenced earlier, currently the city has 2 active community development block grants, one being an economic development block grant that was awarded to the Next Life project that is out on Leestown Road. That was a $1 million project, and we are beginning the closeout phase of that one project. And we also had the Home Street Drainage Project that the mayor has recently signed the grant agreement on, and we are beginning to put the final touches on that grant to where we can go to bid on that fairly quickly. What you have in front of you basically are, if you will, assurances that are in the grant agreement that the mayor signs off on, that basically says the city adhere to these policy and procedures. Basically what we've done, we've gone back and looked. It's been some time since the city had a community development block grant. The last one, of course, awarded was the ED one I was talking about with Next Life. And basically, as we prepare for the monitoring, we're getting these things in order for the monitoring that's upcoming. But we're also basically have written these generically to where we don't have to burden you, hopefully, again, with bringing these things up. The city is already doing these things, okay? It's basically, we're just putting it in different forms of writing, if you will, that when the monitors come out to look at this, so we don't have any question, cost, or findings that we have to respond to. So with that, I mean, sir, if you want to take them line by line, I can, or whatever you want.
Unless the board has any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Well, I had a question before you got up to speak, so maybe you've already answered my questions, I guess. My question was going to be, when did we apply for these? When were they awarded? And my question was going to be, why are we being asked to create new or amend policy after the fact? But what you're saying is that's not what we're going to be doing because we already have these in place, basically? Is that what you're saying?
Basically, most of these things are already in place. I'm not going to speak for your HR division, okay, because I think that some of these things that they can speak for. But the main thing is the city already adheres to most of to what you have in front of you.
Okay.
Again, what we have basically to look at tonight are the things that are typically in a boilerplate, if you will, a contractual arrangement between the Department of Local Government and the city. So basically, to answer your question rather quickly, you're already doing these. We're not really reinventing the wheel. We're just making sure we're adhering to the policy.
So we're not going to be changing any policy? Is that...
Where are we already doing this, Mr. Lehman?
Which ones are you referencing to, Rob?
Each of them. Have we entered into a block grant where, for instance, Resolution 6.2 has already been put in place by the city?
No. If you're saying specifically...
Correct.
No, sir. No, sir. Well, I guess to really answer your question, Rob, if we went back and researched all the way back all those years, you've had a community development block grant in the city before. I don't even know when the last one that you had, Rebecca, do you know?
I don't know which one was just with the city.
Okay.
Probably 97, 98.
Some of this language would already have been there. The other thing that you run into, sir, is that a lot of things with Rebecca's grant, especially when you're dealing with federal dollars, require this type of language to be in, if you will, to be ratified by the commission so that it's readily available. So I guess really what we're trying to do is just clean up the record system, if you will, so we have all this readily available to us to pull. When I say clean up, I mean to make it current. I'm not saying it needs to be cleaned up. I'm just saying to make it current.
Right.
So my real question was, are we going to be creating anything or amending any policy with these resolutions? Well, because here's my concern. I don't want this city to be applying for grants and then be awarded grants. And as this agenda reads, it sounds like, that's my question. I don't want to be creating policy after a grant's been awarded so that we can accept the grant. In other words, when we apply for these grants, should we not know the criteria before we make application? That's my issue, or my question.
Sure, and I can address that.
Okay.
Basically, what you're referencing again, or is part of the application process into, if you will, it's part of evidentiary material that goes back with the submittal of the grant. The mayor signs off on those saying that we will adhere to this, and this. Whether it be an anti-displacement, whether it be a drug, you'll adhere to a drug-free workforce. There's certain things like, and bringing up drug-free workforce, for instance, that's another one. You already had that policy in place. And we looked at it, and it was rather current. We kept it. All we're trying to do is just make, if you will, streamline this, make it clean. We have 2 active CDBGs. Hopefully, the city will get another CDBG in the near future sometime. I don't know. I'm throwing it on the table. We'll have this ready to go. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, is this for a current CDBG pending application or for this one in the future? Maybe, Rebecca, if you...
Well, I can address that. It's basically, what you're looking at today has to do with the 2 current CDBGs and granted that nothing changes from the feds, from housing and urban development, will basically carry over into future CDBG applications.
So these apply to current CDBG projects that we have ongoing or applications?
No, the ones you've already been awarded for. One being the Next Life project that was the $1 million economic development project, and the other one being the Home Street Drainage project, which is $600,000 that the city received for that project.
But we already entered into those agreements several years ago, so I guess the thing I'm having trouble understanding, Mr. Lehman, is why we would be entering into these resolutions today when we signed all the appropriate documents for those other 2 CDBG projects a year or 2 ago.
You just recently signed the Home Street drainage project. The mayor recently signed that grant agreement. Madam Clerk, was that probably in the last 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks? Somewhere in that neighborhood, that basically.
But the next life was a couple of years ago.
That is correct, basically. And Mr. Moore, how that works can be twofold. A lot of communities, whether it be commissions, council, or fiscal courts, when we get ready for monitoring, a lot of them have had things that we pull from in the past from old CDBGs. We get ready for those and we pull them from the old monitorings. Since we've got a new one with Home Street that's recently been awarded, we're getting ready to close out the ED project at Next Life. We're just streamlining all this to where it all fits both projects and any future project that we have.
I just had another question. I didn't think anything could be signed without the board authorizing the signatures, so.
I can address that also.
Okay.
Basically, anytime that, or especially these last two projects, and it's very typical for city commissions, city councils, and fiscal courts, that either the chief elected official, being the mayor, for instance, of the commission, that's part of the actual resolution process, that the mayor is given authorization to sign on behalf of the city, all documents.
And I think normally the city commission authorizes.
It authorizes the resolution. It's actually a formal resolution that becomes part of the application process with the community development block grant.
So Commissioner Bowers, in the past, what we've done is the city has approved the resolution for a specific grant, which in the language of that resolution, it indicates that the mayor would have the authority to sign all related documents.
Okay. So the resolution that you're referring to is sort of like an umbrella resolution for anything that would come under that? Is that how?
Just for this project?
Okay.
It's project specific.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So one more question, just to clarify, Mr. Solicitor. These things that we are reading here, like that I've highlighted, under 6.2, talks about the fair housing policy. On 6.4, adopt affirmative action policy. On 6.6, requires the city to adopt a Title VI implementation plan. And 6.8, the city to adopt a residential anti-displacement and relocation plan. Are you saying that all of those are already in place, so we're not going to be changing those? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that correct?
My recommendation would be to go back and look at the Next Life grant.
Okay.
Working with Rebecca to see, in fact, what policies are already in place. Because I can't tell you, as I sit here today, which of these policies have already been approved. Maybe Mr. Lehman can, but
especially and Rebecca, I want everyone to understand. Rebecca and I have worked a lot of hours on this, back and forth on the phone and face-to-face meetings. So I'm not talking anything up here that she's not aware of. Okay. For instance, the let me see if I can find the one. Displacement. Basically, that's part of evidentiary material that goes before grant submittal. Mr. Solicitor, we did go back and look at that, but it was written specific to the Next Life project, so we could not use it for any future CDBGs. And again, we've got the Home Street project, which the mayor has recently signed a grant agreement on, so we couldn't use it for that. So we've taken these documents and written them generic. I'll say it again, to where hopefully we don't have to come before you with these things on an ongoing basis. I'd love to come before you and say, hey, the city's getting more CDBG money. That's fantastic,
I guess my question, concern, issue is it seems like these things that I've just stated, that I've highlighted, are policy that need to be formally approved by this whole board, and somewhere I'm missing something. If that has actually been done, then why are we addressing this in a resolution form? And if it's not been done, I think that it's policy that has to be addressed by the full board. Am I missing something here? Because it looks like we're being asked to approve policy is what it looks like we're being asked to approve, and I
Sure.
clarify if I'm,
Commissioner, I only bring forth
okay.
basically the recommendations, and how they're written is entirely up to the city.
I believe, if I could interject, I believe staff's saying, and I think so too, the grant requires that this be adopted as the grant application is put in. Is that correct?
This should already be
Is that correct?
That's
is correct, Mayor,
If you
yes.
want the grant, you have to agree to implement these resolutions, and the resolutions include the policy within the resolution.
Include the policy within the resolution. Okay, I do understand that, but I guess I'm back to the thing, the very first meeting. I don't want to be approving something after things have been done, or where it's told to me, here's the grant, but now you must do this. In other words, we need to know on the front end what we're needing to do before we even go for these grants. So I will just look into this. I will look to see what policy exists related to these now. If that's, is that okay, Mayor? Or Mayor, maybe you can explain it a little better.
Well, I think what it is, what they're trying to say is, even if we have policies and guidelines already on our books, that these types of grants are going to require that we make this adoption. And I guess that's probably to catch communities that don't have these types of guidelines in place, and because we already have those, it's a redundancy.
Okay, so we already have these in place.
Well, we're going to check to make sure we might not have all of them. And I guess the other thing too is
Some
just,
things are grant specific.
the city clerk said some things are grant specific.
Right.
That they're going to have different requirements. And I guess when the commission, I have another question after commissioners, but I'll recognize commissioners first. And I'll thank Commissioner Haynes for standing. I had to go take a quick conference call from something going on with legislature, so I had to go. But
We didn't think that was so quick.
You didn't think it was quick?
But he did a great job while you were gone.
Sure he did.
It was quick.
Thank you. So thank you for doing it, Ms. Commissioner Haynes. And after commissioners, I have questions after we recognize commissioners for any comments or questions about that.
Well, I didn't have any problems with it, because when I looked through it, I didn't see a dollar figure tag to it, so I have a tendency not to have a problem with those.
Commissioner, the only dollar figure is on one of those is actually a contractual arrangement between Bluegrass Area Development District and the city. And I think it's 11,000 some odd dollars, which is much lower than what we typically do grant agreements for. So, yeah, and basically that doesn't cost the city anything that comes from the grant.
Okay, good job.
So, yes. I should clarify that before I get down. And you all have my contact information there, and Mayor, may I approach to get my card? That way, my cell number's on there.
Absolutely.
And please, if any of y'all have questions, just call me.
Okay, thank you.
You may be
Thank
getting
you.
two, I don't know, I think that.
They are.
Any other questions or comments?
Mine has already been clarified with 7.18, so.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Mayor, would you like me here for the commission meeting? I do live in Franklin County, so it's just...
If it's not too much trouble, because we may have some other issues that we'll bring up in conjunction with these policies.
Sure.
I think what we'll do is, if the commission doesn't mind, we'll direct staff to give us a list of all the policies that we do have in place, and then if there's going to be any changes to those policies, we could direct staff to add those for the March 25th meeting, because I may have some suggestions to add to our current policies. But we will put those in form of written form to the appropriate staff, I guess. Is that okay? Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, is there anything else on the tentative agenda for that? See, and I'm not sure where you stopped.
City manager's next.
Okay, well, obviously I'll have city manager reports and staff comments.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, while we're here, while we're this part, I almost neglected this. While we got to this part, I was going to introduce our new city manager who takes office beginning tomorrow morning, or what time is it tonight? Midnight plus 1 second?
Well, 0:01.
So Mr. Tim Zissoff's in the back of the room, so welcome Tim to the... And I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's all right, Mayor. I assure you, if you hadn't have done it, I was going to welcome Tim to the city, and good luck to you, sir. And I will assume my seat in the peanut gallery here shortly. So,
Not sure I want to change.
Thank you. If it pleases the board, I just want to say thank you for your support, and also the previous board support during my 6-month tenure as acting city manager. I have certainly learned a lot, and
10 months?
Pardon?
10 months?
6 months?
6 months.
6 months.
6 months.
10.
It seemed like 10. I've certainly enjoyed the experience, and I just want to thank all the staff and all the employees for working so hard to help me get the job done. I certainly appreciate it. We have a great bunch of employees, and I'm very proud of them. I was proud to step up, and I'll be just as proud to go back. So I'm looking forward to going back to the police department.
Well, and Commissioners reminded me that today is Mark Wilhoit Day, so we're going to actually let you go home early today.
We are?
11:59.
11:59. 11:59. Give you that extra minute so you can go ahead and
As long as you tell my wife about it, that'd be fine.
So it'll transition back, and then...
But Mayor?
Go ahead.
Mr. Zishoff and Mr. Wilhoit may actually have to change if this meeting's kind of going on a long time. You may have to...
Yeah, in honor of Mark Wilhoit Day, the meeting will have to be concluded, I think it was 7 p.m.
I will pass
to celebrate
the
for the Mark Wilhoit Parade. So you got 6 minutes, folks. Let's do it.
But that's my report. Now, I know the staff does have several reports, so I'll call on Fire Chief Bossage.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dawson.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Scout, you've got your own agenda items, so we'll just pass over you. Emergency Management Director.
Yes, sir.
Would you please come up to the podium and give us...
items.
How many? Did you say 15?
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask the commission's permission and for approval to apply for a 911 grant. This is a grant offered through the CMRS board, that's the state 911 board. It's zero match, it doesn't require a match, and it is for equipment to a couple of things. It's going to replace some obsolete equipment, end of life equipment, and it will move us toward the new next generation 911 that's coming about, IP-based 911, where we can receive text messages and communicate and send other things better. So this is a competitive process through the CMRS board. It does have a fairly tight deadline. I have to apply, we have to submit it actually by Friday. It does not require a resolution, but it does ask for the mayor's signature. So that's it.
You had me at zero match.
So is there no objection to adding that?
And no policy change is required, right?
No. Nothing.
Good luck with it.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Major Deaton?
We're good, sir, and welcome back.
All right. Mr. Donahue?
Nothing.
Mr. Pacheco?
No, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Bradley?
Yes, sir.
I think Mr. Bradley's going to be the star of the show tonight. We have several items to discuss.
Just stay up here.
We're going to run it.
I've been around Bill Scalf too long. Just a couple things I'd like to run by the board. First, for staff reports. The first item is we've received a request from the Humane Society to pick up their recycling. They are outside of the Renaissance area, so normally we don't pick up recycling for businesses outside of that area, but we do go right beside it to the, pick up the recycling for the sewer department, and I don't think it would be a burden on us to do it, but it's not something that I can do. It's something that that we need to be directed to do. So if that's something that you all feel, you know, we can do, if you could just ask the city manager to ask us to do so, then we would be glad to do so.
I'm good with it.
Objection.
You good with it?
No.
No. Wait, no.
No.
That's why that.
But if there's three, then there's three.
Well, maybe we ought to hear why, because it might change minds.
Mike?
Mayor?
Sorry.
Can we have discussion tonight on
Oh,
this?
absolutely. Go ahead.
I would like to hear from Commissioner Hedden.
Commissioner Hedden, will you yield to a question from Commissioner Bowles?
Yes. My concern just is that if we change the rule for one, then why do we not change the rule for many others that are still on our route, even though we're going places?
That's the attitude. I was thinking we were that's what I meant to say.
I understand that we help fund you, and maybe that's some wording we need to look at in the policy. If you are a funded source within the city, then we will pick up your recycling.
Okay.
Not within the Renaissance District, but to just do it for them and them alone. I can't support, but maybe the rest of the board can. But
I'm glad you said, I need to clarify something too, if I could, just as a point of clarification. When I said if there's no, I was thinking you wanted to add it to the agenda. I wasn't saying like approving it tonight.
Well, no, what I was thinking.
So I'm sorry, Commissioner Hedden, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that was just a point of order I think I needed to make, so
Yeah.
just continue on.
that's all, that's the only thing I have. It's nothing against the Humane Society, but if we were going to change it, we should at least change it to people that we are providing services to or funding to.
Okay.
And are already on the route that we pass right by.
Right, but not just to any business that is within route. Because there's a lot of other businesses I know that would love to be on our route to have the recycling picked up.
Sure.
But are they 501c3s?
There are some.
There are some.
Maybe we should look into who would be eligible would be in that same category that you're in. In other words, who would we then be seeing if they fit? We probably ought to look at it before we.
Yeah, I just would point out, to make this type of change, we really need to do this under an order which would require the city staff to work on cross-checking any ordinances or other orders that would have conflict with. And just as a reminder, people can still take their own recyclable items to our recyclable drop-off on Rouse Avenue. I know that's more, it's not as convenient, but just want to, at this time, take that opportunity to tell people you still can drop off recyclables. But I think it's something that we just need to further discuss with review of any conforming changes that would need to be made to other ordinances or orders. And it's something that we can add to the agenda for the 25th if you...
I think we should add it to the agenda and give us some time to look at.
We're already discussing pay-as-you-throw tonight. We could discuss it later.
Yes,
Sure.
with other organizations, because the Humane Society provides a service to the city that we really need. And
Well, we actually contract with them.
we spent,
Contract with them.
well, we spent a whole, we spent a whole 2 years discussing increasing recycling. So I think we ought to probably put it on the agenda and then discuss it tonight as well.
I was going to say how I started. I'm Linda Thomas. I was appointed in July as your all's city rep for the Humane Society.
Thank you.
And I read the article in December's newspaper about how many empty recycled cans you all have, and I thought we could help them out.
So we helped you out, right?
So I thought, so I called Mr. Bradley, and this is how it all started.
Well, thank you so much for attending those meetings and for the suggestion, too. Commissioner Haynes.
I just want thank you for bringing it to our attention, because one of our goals is tweaking the pay-as-you-throw process, and this kind of gives us something else to look at when we're looking at that part.
Okay.
All right. So we'll review. Just a question you might ask, if I ask you a question. Do you know, did the Humane Society Board, have they said anything like they wanted this brought up, or has it been discussed at a board meeting yet?
Yes,
or?
it has.
It did, okay.
Yeah.
So we didn't have anything, but I think you can tell there's probably a lot of concerns about adding people to the route, and we encourage recycling, but we cannot pick up in business areas or people that are outside of our service area, or we're going to get ourselves into a situation where everybody's going to come and ask for that same service, and then we don't have the equipment nor the staff to, at this point, accommodate the amount of time it takes to do a route. I don't know if Public Works has made a recommendation on it yet, or if you've had time to look at it to make a recommendation, but if you have made a recommendation, you can tell us now, or if you're still reviewing, then...
On this one facility?
Yes.
Or, well, I think Commissioner Hedden brings up a good point, and that's why it's written, so that we can't randomly make those decisions, in staff, because it has to be fair and consistent as much as possible, so.
Okay. Good enough. All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
My item number 2 also has to do with recycling. We're preparing to...
talk about it. We're not, at this point, I'm sorry, just to clarify, I don't know that there's enough support to put it on as an agenda item, but if we want to discuss it, we can certainly do that. I'm perfectly willing to say tonight that I would follow our staff recommendation that we not do it, but if other commissioners agree that you want to do it, you can certainly...
I think his recommendation is that if we wanted to do it, he didn't recommend to not do it. He recommended that the commission direct if we wanted to do it. Is that not what you recommended?
That's what I said, yes. If you want us to do it, you have to direct us.
I think when we talk about the pay-as-you-throw tonight as an issue, that we can look at all of the other entities that might be included in that change, and then we can decide.
Okay, so we'll just do that instead of, we don't need to make an agenda item. We'll just discuss it.
Okay.
That's what I was... Thank you, Commissioners.
Item 2. We're preparing a bid to go out and bid for services for hauling our recycling to Lexington.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Your item number 2
Uh-huh.
on your email, I think you should go to number 3. Right.
Yeah, I've got a different list. Do you want me to go back and follow the list I gave you?
Can I see your list, please? You never ask a question you don't know the answer to.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
I don't have it.
Because you know this one.
I'm not looking at it.
Oh, yeah, I'm not.
All right,
This is
thank
just
you, sir.
that's not what they're doing.
My X-ray vision's not working tonight, I'm sorry.
You're on.
Yes.
Item 2 also has to do with recycling. We're getting ready to, or I'd like to go out and bid services to haul our recycling to Lexington. As many of you know, we applied for and received a grant to buy a recycling compactor, which we've purchased. Currently, it costs us about $1,640 per week for our guys to haul recycling to Lexington in our trucks. And so what we want to do is we want to deposit it at Rouse Avenue, place it in the compactor, put it in a box, have somebody haul it, so it's not our trucks or our staff hauling it, making that trip back and forth. We're thinking that we can get that cost down to about $1,000 per week. That's a savings of about $640 per week, or roughly $33,000 a year. I'm just giving you that information before we go out to bid, just so that you guys know about it ahead of time. Item number 3, Sewer is planning to do some work this summer in Crestwood. And it would be a good time to do the storm work in Crestwood. As you know, those plans were designed about 10 years ago, and we need the engineer to update those if that's something that you all are considering us doing this summer. I guess I'm going to need a little bit of guidance from the commission on that. If that's something that you plan on doing, please let me know so we can go forward with the engineer. If that's something that we're not going to look at, there's no reason.
What time frame do you, if we do that by the March 25th meeting, is that soon enough, or do you need something sooner?
No, I think that'd be fine.
Okay. Is there any objections from commissioners? Okay. So we'll put that on.
For discussion.
Okay, and I apologize, I have several things to add to the agenda if it's at all possible.
Well, I'll leave that to the city manager since...
I was going to say that the Crestwood stormwater is a budgetary item, so you probably want to include that in your budgetary discussions.
Okay.
Rather than yet another discussion.
Okay.
Good enough.
So.
Okay. To add to the agenda, I would like to add a bid award to replace the City Hall phones. It's through the plant board still. It's a sole source because of that. It's going to end up saving us, well, it costs like $29,000 to replace the phones in City Hall, but it's in 27 months it pays for itself. With the monthly price dropping from $14.82 a month to $3.70 a month. So it's significant savings. It takes about 2 years to pay for it. The other thing, item I'd like to add to the agenda is, as you may know, the Transit Department received a grant to build a bus wash on our Bald Knob property. We need to award the phase 2 of that design. That's grant funded. The next item, we have a promotion in the street department I'd like to add. And lastly is the Shinkle Sidewalk Project Award. If you remember, on Shinkle, we're going to build a sidewalk in the fall, and the weather got to us, and so we need to, would like to award that bid and get that project started. That's from East Main up to can't think of the name of the subdivision.
The Colonial Colony?
No, it's
Shinklewood?
Shinklewood, yes, sir. Sorry about that.
I grew up over there.
Okay.
What side of the, coming off of East Main, what side?
On the right side.
Isn't there like a big concrete wall around
Yes,
there?
but we have room.
Okay.
We have room to get through there.
Get people off the streets there.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people just walk on the street around
Yeah.
that curve.
It's dangerous
so
right there.
It's very dangerous. So that's something we would like to do as well. So with your permission, we could add those items to the.
Okay. Is there no objection to adding those items? Okay. We'll add them to the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
And before you go, I just want to say thanks to all of our folks in streets, which is under Public Works again, for getting out in the conditions they had to get out in and drive the salt trucks and plow the streets. As always, in the morning, people magically have streets that are drivable because, not magically, but because of all the folks that go out and drive the trucks until that work is done. So thanks to them and to all the other folks in police, fire, dispatch. I think even sewer department had to go out on there was a sewer cap or something that got knocked off on, or a plate or something. Maybe it was a little time back, I can't remember. But thank you all again for all getting out there and doing all that tough work. Most appreciated.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary, did you have anything else?
No, sir.
Anybody else? Parks? Okay, I believe that concludes staff reports.
Well, and as mayor and on behalf of our commissioners, we want to tell you as city manager how much we have appreciated the sacrifices you made to do that, to assume that role, in addition to all the other roles you had to go through during this process. I forgot how many days and how many hours do you know you had to do it?
But I just know how many I have left.
We do deeply appreciate that, and I don't know that anybody could have come in and done a better job. I don't know anyone that I can think of right now that could have been able to come in and calm things and get the staff into a situation where they feel comfortable. I know that all the staff, because they've told me how much they've appreciated you stepping into that role. I know that PD will be glad to have you back, but we will miss you on this side of the street. We'll still visit and we'll see you at the meetings, but we deeply appreciate the extra duties you did. And for those that don't know, Mark did that extra duty without any extra compensation, which I can't think of a better service to your community than stepping up and doing that. And it was in a time we really deeply needed someone in that position that could pull things together, and we appreciate that. And just want to just give you a round of applause for that. And more like that, really, that's out of this out of we're going to do the slow clap. We're going to back you out.
That's right.
You have to go, but no,
Thank you, Mayor. It was my honor.
Thank you so much. And I know that you'll do everything you can to help Mr. Zissoff come in and make a smooth transition. So we're excited to see you come in, but big shoes to fill. Hope everyone will give you the same respect that they've given Mark and the others that have been here. So that's all we can ask. So thank you again so much. Now let's see, we are down to Sewer Department update. So I'll ask Mr. Scout to come forward.
Everybody obviously or should have a copy of the memo I passed out last week. I'll be happy to answer any questions. The only thing I want to bring to your attention specifically are items 2 and 4 because they're interrelated. Some of you have heard this in the past, but this is our estimate of how much flow my customers paid us to treat. What we do is we look at our revenue, look at the rate structure, and do a back calculation. It's not real scientific, but it's close. And as you can see, we treated about 2.25% or times, not percent, 2.25 times as much water as our customers paid us to treat. Again, that's indicative of the inflow and filtration problems that we've got within our system. With that being said, moving on to number 4, in January, the City Commission approved a MOA with Franklin County to do what we're calling the river spur, which is taking additional stormwater out of my combined system and taking that stormwater straight to the river. At the time that MOA was generated, the engineer's estimate on that project total was $120,000. Unfortunately, we have since bid the project, and the low bid, came in about 50% higher than the engineer's estimate. So with looking at all the other issues, and we're still trying to come up with a number, Robert Hewitt is here to answer any questions that you might have. Since frankly it is a Franklin County project, it's not a city sewer project, I'll defer any hard questions. I'll answer the easy questions. I'll defer the hard questions to Robert. But the proposal that Robert is bringing tonight is additional cost sharing if the commission would be agreeable to that on the overage. The fiscal court has not approved that as I understand it, but Robert has talked to the county judge. The county judge is agreeing in concept to do something like that. We would hope that by early next week we would have a final number of what that overage is, but I'm putting it out there basically for discussion if that's something the City Commission would even consider. Again, the one thing I would point out, based upon the engineer's estimate, that spur will take about 1.3 million gallons of water a year out of my combined sewer. Now, if you look at the 2.4 billion that we treat, it's a small percentage, but every small percentage helps us. So with that, I will be happy to answer any questions about those two items, or again, any of the 8 that are on the memorandum.
Commissioner Hayes?
So I takes it up about 180,000 from the 120. You said about 50% higher.
And there's some, and Robert, I don't know if you want to answer that, but there are some other issues in there. Actually, it could go up a little higher than that. That's why I say we're Franklin County's trying to get that number. They're working with their engineer CDP to develop that final number.
Yes, when the project was bid out, we only had a preliminary geotechnical report, much like you experienced with your public safety building and the library did. There's unstable soils in and along the riverbank. So we had that condition, which raised our excavation costs from the contractor. Asphalt prices were a little bit higher as well. The geotech also wants to be on site during excavation. And AT&T wants to charge us for some potholing so that their lines can be located. We have added some additional contingency because neither Bill or I want to come back and ask for any additional funds. But yet we want to make sure there's still some room in there for the unknown, and we think that's still a definite possibility. What the fiscal court, what I will be requesting from the fiscal court is that the fiscal court split this overage with the city, that we pay half of that overage.
A 50-50 split.
Yeah, as part of an amended MOA between the two bodies. I can meet with the fiscal court as early as Thursday evening of this week. Therefore, you could have some additional information for the 25th meeting, and then we, the fiscal court, will meet on the 5th. So timing is very critical. This is all coming together as part of this Judicial Center project, Green Streets project, and I've also been directed to bury the utilities in Catfish Alley. So we're coordinating all these projects into one, and fiscal court, and I'm sure the city, we see this as a community project. It's not just a courthouse project. It's going to help beautify downtown. You know, we're doing some streetscape improvements out front as part of the Green Streets. You know, AOC is participating. They're doing some work on Wapping Street for us. We're coordinating resurfacing so that the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. And when the project's done, the streets will be resurfaced and stormwater will be going to the river and things should run smoothly.
And any item that would come to the agenda as a revised MOA would have a maximum amount that we would expect. And we keep our fingers crossed.
Any commissioners want to ask questions, or if there's no objection, we'll just go ahead and move this to the agenda for approval?
No objections.
Per the fiscal court.
Again, assuming the fiscal court agrees. If it doesn't, then Robert and I put our heads together and figure out where we go, because frankly, at that point, the project could very well die.
Was this going to be the permeable or semi-permeable?
This is the outlet end of that portion of the project.
Okay.
That project will proceed as part of the grant. Okay. This is to pick up all the excess water and take it to the river rather than dumping it back into my combined sewers.
So, I just meant like any of the paving is this going to be regular asphalt, or will it be the semi-permeable?
There's going to be a variety. It's a demonstration project, so we'll have pavers, we'll have pervious concrete, we'll have.
But all of that's in Catfish Alley, though.
Well, we'll have some as well.
Right, but specifically not, the pavement that Robert was speaking of was specifically the asphalt pavement going back in Wapping, the KSU parking lot, and the city parking lot.
Okay.
The reason for this spur is that both Mr. Scalf, myself, and Mr. Bradley agreed that sending this water down Buffalo Alley was not a good idea. Right. So we've chosen to direct it in a new route that we know what will be in the ground and how it will function.
we appreciate the continued working relationship. So it just shows again, I mean, people always talk about city-county relationships, and it's always nice to see Robert come back because he was our planner for I don't know how many years. So
it was about 3.5.
And always good to have that working relationship between city and county departments, and it's working. So we appreciate you guys.
It does work.
It does work.
Even though when I walk in, they do razz me a little bit.
We work with the county a lot, obviously. For those of you that don't know, roughly 20% of my system's in the county, so we have to get along a little.
And we do. They're great.
We have working lunches every other Friday.
Yes, we do.
To go over projects and to make sure we're aware of what we're doing.
We thank you. I know all of our commissioners here and Commissioner Roach always have good reports to say about working with county staff and other county officials. So glad to see the cooperation.
Thank you so much. And we'll report back based on the fiscal course decision on Thursday.
I'm sure they will agree.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, can you tell me, is the air conditioner on here?
It feels like it.
I mean, don't we need to be conserving energy? Is anybody cold?
Well, you got to remember that a little while ago there was 3 times as many people, and that was probably turned up to because of all the body heat.
It was cold then too. But
okay.
Thank you.
We are honoring a request if the commissioners want it to be warmer. We can certainly make that warmer if you don't want that warmer. A degree or 2. I think that's going to be taken care of for you. All right, let's see who else. Is that all for staff reports? All right. Thank you so much. And then under old business, commission goals and priorities. We do.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bowers.
I was going to move that we pass over this.
Mayor, I was going to move that we just call a special meeting next week and discuss it with the new city
Well, that
manager,
certainly is
Tim.
confusing now.
So we got 2 motions now.
Well, she said she was going to move, she didn't move.
I know, I was going to say, it's like, okay, I was going to say, maybe y'all were in agreement, but apparently. I will say too, Commissioner Roach would be here tonight. He had to attend a funeral out of town and asked that, I think, did ask that if we would consider calling a special meeting on the 18th, but I don't know the feelings of the commission, so.
Well, I'm not available on the 18th, but if the rest of the board wanted to meet on the 18th, I would not object, but I can't be here. I would also suggest that another possibility might be,
Everybody's checking their
I
calendar.
know, Mayor, that we talked earlier about having a noon meeting, and so that's our vote meeting that night, the night of the vote meeting, possibly if we have to have another meeting, that maybe we could convene at noon on that day and deal with this.
Okay.
I mean, I personally think that we've already dealt with this and that we're just beating it to death, and I personally believe that our staff knows what it is that we want to accomplish in this term, but if other people don't think that's the case, I guess we can keep talking about it. It's March, and these are planning this is a planning meeting item, but if people really want to do that, a suggestion is the 18th, but I won't be here. Or at noon on the day of our vote meeting is another option. In any case, I'm moving that we pass over this tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Bowers is making a motion to pass over old business item commission goals and priorities, and then we'll that would need a second.
I second it.
Commissioner Haynes, second. Okay, now any other discussion? I would say one thing, I did have a brief conversation with current city manager, Mark Wilhoit, and city manager who takes over at midnight plus 1 second, Tim Zissoff tonight. And just mentioned that maybe it would be something that we could talk to Mr. Zissoff about to see what he would recommend in terms of how we would address this if we need to do it on a special meeting on the 18th. but since Commissioner Bowers can't be there, I think it's important to try to do when we can all get here. I can be here on the 25th at noon if everybody else can, but my recommendation and thought was that we would hear from Mr. Zishoff and see if he thought we should have a special meeting or just say, as city manager, he knows what he sees, he can look at our goals and priorities and make recommendations and talk to staff and say he could present us with a memo that says, here's the time frame that these items can be accomplished, and if that meets with our agreement, if the board's in agreement with us, with that, then we can move forward, and if the board isn't in agreement with it, then we can come back and say, we do need to spend time and discuss it some more. So that's just one thought. So any other comments before we vote? And all this vote is tonight is just to pass over the item tonight. It doesn't have anything to do with when we're going to have a meeting or whether we're not going to have a meeting. It just says we just pass over tonight. So any other commissioners want to add anything? Okay, ready to vote? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Mayor May?
Yes. Okay, so we'll pass over that. And then I guess we can look at recommendations from Mr. Zishoff as to whether we should try to get together and have a special meeting and a time when hopefully all 5 of us can be here. Okay. Well, thank you. Next item, new business under Indoor Recreation Study Committee. I would say, as Ms. Gibbs pointed out earlier, we do have the 2002 report from Brad Sitter Carroll, which I did actually, I think, I'm not sure if I've shared that with everybody because it was, I think we probably have a copy in the clerk's office, and if not, I have it, and if not, Parks has it. And the other thing I was thinking is after we've heard from so many folks, I'm perfectly willing to use the report from Brad Sitter Carroll and then also refer this item to our Parks Advisory Board, which is already in place, to review such items. And I don't know that it would make it better or worse if we had another group looking at issues, but I just feel like the Parks Department has the Parks Advisory Board that has made recommendations and could make recommendations, and if the commission said we'd like the Parks Board to look at specific items of an indoor recreation center, which the Parks Board's already on record as supporting an indoor recreation center, correct? And if there's a need to say, let's also add to that, would you look at adding indoor tennis facilities or any other facilities? And I don't know, that's just my thought. I'd be interested what the commission thinks. Certainly not trying to stifle anything, but as I think Ms. Gibbs said, there's about reinventing the wheel.
I definitely agree. If we already have some data that's already been created, no one wants to start from scratch. And I also agree with the mayor, since the Parks Advisory Board is already active, and they can at least look at that and see if it needs updating. And I also know that to really get public input, we had a lot of people in here that night, and that was just one phase of them. That was just the tennis people. There are some other people that are very interested in a recreation facility. So once we get to that point, we'll need to make sure that we involve, the key people that can move it.
One thing I would recommend too, and Jim Parrish is here, and I'm not sure if Jim McCarty is here, I can't see, but Mr. Parrish is here. The Parks Board meetings are open, and so folks could attend the Parks Advisory Board meetings and make those presentations to the Parks Board, and then we can get a recommendation from the Parks Board. Certainly doesn't mean people can't still come and talk to us, so I would be interested, Commissioner Hedden and Commissioner Bowers, how you all feel about that, because we want to all work together on this and get the best product. And if you're not comfortable with that, then we can go back and tweak this to how we all feel comfortable. If you don't like the idea of the Parks Board looking at it and you want to be involved, we can always go as members of the commission to the Parks Board meetings too, and listen if that's okay, and if that's not something that you all agree on, that's what we're here to talk about. So I don't. Okay, Commissioner Bowers.
Well, I think that Ms. Gibbs made a good point, and I think we have a Parks Board already in place, and if the Parks Board could designate a few meetings to discuss in just this item and invite public input, and, well, all of our meetings, I guess, are announced. But make a concerted effort to let people know that if they have something to contribute to that, that they come to those meetings. And I'm fine with the Parks Board handling it.
Commissioner Hedden?
I don't doubt the Parks Board can handle this. They have had the information for its 2000, what?
Two. Oh, I'm sorry, now 2000, yes.
Yeah, they did that in 2002. The problem with the sports industry is that trends change. They constantly change. The design of a facility doesn't have to change, but trends do change. And it happens overnight. It happens all the time. I do believe that the Parks Board is suited to have ample discussions to go forth. However, there are many people in this community that Mr. Arnett brought to our attention that could be vital assets to making sure that we know exactly how to fund a facility, exactly how to lobby for a facility, and exactly make sure that we know exactly, not necessarily big game changers, but make sure we know people who are in this community can see that this can get done. I don't want to wait another 10 years for something like this to have to get done. The state owns 60% of property within the city and pays nothing. And it's time for us to get a board and a study group together to do something about this. And if we wanted to bring businesses into this community and have them develop their manufacturing firms here, if you want to have people besides state government right here in Frankfort, we've got to do something to attract them. I understand we have great parks, we have a river, we have a wonderful educated community, but we're losing families. And families spend money. I can attest for that. And if you want to go on and to have the Parks Board go forth with this, I'm fine. The one thing I would recommend is that if you want the Parks Board to go through with this, I would like for people within this community to be able to go up to the Parks Board and say, I want a study group, and let these people put in their resumes, put in what they want to do and how they would like to work with the Parks Board, have the Parks Board then set up the study group, set up a time frame, so that by January next year, we are build ready, we know what we want, and we want legislative people to come through and help us fund a facility in this town.
That's fine. I think where I was just coming from, trying to create a new study group from scratch, Commissioner Bowles will tell you the history of that is sometimes difficult. And to move the project forward, I feel like we have a running start with, and I don't know, nobody here, I haven't talked with anybody on the Parks Board, and I don't know if it's putting you on the spot.
No, if you don't mind, I was just going to say.
And we can, we can do that differently. We can still come up with another board if you all want to try to do it.
We can have the Parks Board run it, but I would just want, there's many local people.
You would input from citizens.
You know, that's what we did with the football field. We had the Parks Board sort of take the lead, but we had a lot of folks go to the Parks Board meetings. I mean,
and have them
probably.
get in touch with your chairperson, I guess, and let.
Well, if I could just say, just real quick, this can turn around pretty quickly. We have a Parks Board meeting that will be advertised this week. It is Monday, the 18th. Okay. And with a little direction, I'll be happy to bring to their attention. They're aware of everything and the different groups around town that have brought different facility ideas and stuff. And we're all open to the possibilities and certainly all the community input. So with just a little bit of direction of what you all would like for us to bring up, or any of you feel free to come, it's Monday at 11 a.m. at Juniper Hill, which it's open, to get the ball rolling where it doesn't have to wait for a long time. But we do have a Parks Board meeting Monday.
And the reason I said that,
next Monday,
because I know Commissioner Hedden has worked very hard on this, and it's something that I guess you have a degree in sports.
Sport management.
Sport management. I was going to say sports medicine.
But I have a passion for this. I'm sorry.
And you have two small, you have twins that are in the age group that really would you're going to be more in tune with this than those of us that have older.
Well, I will tell you, in the study that was done in 2002, the number one priority was some type of family recreation center, whether it be aquatic or family orientated.
We also have more retirees now than ever before that also would use the facility.
Exactly. So we do have a Parks Board meeting Monday. Okay. Please attend, and then let's get something
on the dock.
So it is Monday, so you all would actually take up this issue Monday?
We can, yes, put it on the agenda.
And maybe you could like take up recruiting citizens to come address it at
Yeah,
a
talk
future
about,
meeting.
exactly. If we need to have some public meetings, or what we need to do, or if we want to form the task force.
Study group, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever we call it. We'll get a recommendation from the Parks Board.
Great.
It's 11 a.m.?
11 a.m. at Juniper Hill, at the office.
Those are all open to the public, and what if you get such a big crowd there? The comment, there's room downstairs, right?
Yeah, we'd have to
Like a golf
move, we'd have to move downstairs. Yeah. There is a meeting room downstairs.
Because I was gonna say, so there may be, I don't know if that, on the open records, open meetings requirement, if it is advertised at the Parks Board and they have to move it downstairs, that's still okay, is it not?
As long as it's properly posted, it would be fine. Now, that's the same building now.
Yeah, it's posted on,
Obviously,
it's posted at the front door, so it will cover the building.
Sounds good, because you might get a lot of folks once this, I guess we'll just send a news release about the meeting. I guess it's already posted. All right, thank you. So is everybody comfortable, ready to vote on it?
Do we have a?
We didn't make a motion.
We didn't have a
yet.
motion. I move that I move that the Parks Board will take responsibility for addressing the issue of.
I thought there was.
This is really not a voting
Not a
meeting.
voting.
Okay.
We can just go with
We've been voting
consensus.
tonight.
I know we voted on a couple.
We did vote tonight, but let's just go
I
with
apologize for
consensus.
that
This
too,
would just kind of
because
be
I got,
an open.
We're just gonna let them do it.
okay, good enough. I think it's all.
Well, we'll be at Juniper Hill 11 a.m. Monday, the 18th.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. And if it doesn't work out the way the commission wants it, then obviously, all of us that are concerned about this, we can say, hey, we really wanted such a type of velodrome in there. That ain't gonna happen. That's a indoor bike racing arena. Not gonna happen. Okay. Does anybody else want to say anything else on this item? Commissioner Hedden?
Not this item. I have
Okay.
another one under.
But I recognize
new
you.
business. May I bring up
Yeah,
another
sorry,
new
go ahead.
business?
Sorry.
It's under my knowledge that our webpage is not posting our video recordings of all of our meetings since we've taken office. And Jolson, since you are actually here tonight,
Yeah, we restored it. It's there.
all of them are there?
If I may,
Yeah.
Commissioner Roach brought this up to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I discussed it with Juleson,
Okay,
and we've taken steps to ensure that number one, that the work session room in there is wired and ready to go for recording, and then the sound recordings, the audio recordings, that we subscribe to the premium service that will host the entire audio also. And you'll remember the last meeting, the plant board didn't show up at all, and Juleson taped it, so it didn't show up on cable 10, but we have it. But we're aware that those meetings are on there, and
Okay.
we're going to make every effort to make sure that they are.
okay. And
In the
is
future.
the recording in the other room working?
Yes.
They're all working pretty well? Okay.
The audio was only down for like 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
and I think people probably are listening to it, that they already noticed it. But we restored the subscription to it, and it's back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner, did you have further?
No, I'm sorry, I'm battling a sinus infection, so.
Okay, any other items under new business? Okay, if not, we already, the support letter from DFI, I think we're all in agreement with that, correct? To continue having DFI be our Main Street coordinator and all the other things that are included in that? No objections? And then, and of course, we'll deal with that at the vote at the 25th. Next item is potential changes to pay-as-you-throw. We'll open up for discussion. Any commission members, and Mr. Bradley's going to come forward. I don't know if y'all want to ask questions or if Mr. Bradley wants to make any recommendations or any statement first. Whatever is the commission's desire will follow.
I'd like to hear him.
I don't know maybe how much in depth that you all want to get into tonight, given the hour.
What is the hour?
Huh?
What is the hour?
It's like 20 till 8.
Oh, we've got like 4 more hours.
Oh.
20 minutes.
Well, I was kind of hoping we'd have the new, I was hoping we'd go back to the 1 hour meetings, the really concentrated efficiency thing. I know, but we've had a lot of issues tonight, so I'm sorry. We can do the abbreviated version.
So maybe,
short version.
if you want to maybe throw out a few items to talk about, and then maybe we'll stew on it and come back and revisit it either. It may be something better served at a special meeting where we could concentrate on it and not have a long stream of.
Nobody's been shot over this yet, have they?
Not yet.
Okay. That was one question I had.
Okay. Do y'all have any questions?
I'm just kidding,
before?
too.
Well, maybe you could give us just some, because you've been working with this. Do you have any suggestions for us to think about what maybe needs to change or be tweaked or done, or
Well,
if anything?
I think it depends on what the commission's desired result is. I think the previous commission's desired result was that trash going to the landfill be down and recyclables be up. And you know, we're at that point. I think the trash is reduced by somewhere around 30% and the recyclables up by 40-some percent. So we've been successful on that end. There's some concern about the enforcement, and I have some numbers here just to kind of to give you a background on. We pick up about 10,000 pickups a week, and so there's 52 weeks in the year, so that's 500,000 pickups. Of those, the violation letters sent out, there have been 2,072 trash, 1,240 due to recycling. Of those, the people that didn't fix the problem and we actually had to go back and clean it up, we have 115 that we actually sent the $25 cleanup invoice. So you can see that while there's a large number of pickups, there's the violations are a small percentage of that. We've kind of prepared.
Commissioner Hayden wants to ask.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one question. Of those $25 invoices, how many of them were from apartments or rentals?
The number I was given was approximately 30% of those were multifamily properties.
30%. Thank you.
And as you know, I think a lot of the issue there is that unless the signature grants us to permission to send the letter to the tenant, we send the letter to the property owner. So maybe there's some disconnect there. I don't know if once the commission passed that order where we could have the landlord ask the tenant to sign, I don't know if that's improved the situation. I think that it has some, but I don't have numbers to support that. So in talking with a couple of the commissioners that came by to talk to us, and I talked to staff, we have some things to talk about. I'm not going to say that we necessarily endorse any of these at this time, but there's certainly talking points for us to go over. One of the things, I guess the struggle that we're having as far as the department goes is that we have about 43% of our carts in trash are the 32s, and we're out. So we have a few that don't have lids. We've ordered lids, but maybe that's 20 or 30 more. So we kind of need direction from the board. What do you want us to do?
We told you last month that we would let you know.
Yeah.
So we do need to address at least that part of it.
One of the things that potentially we can do is allow the residents to change their cards only maybe twice a year. Maybe the month following the billing, they can call in and say, I want to go down or up. That way we're not constantly year-round trying to switch cards out. And it takes a lot of manpower to do that. Another thing we could possibly do is counter to what the ordinance says is charge to go down a size as well as go up. Currently, we charge $20 to go up a can size, but we don't charge anything to go down a can size. One of the suggestions was maybe go for 2 or 3 months and have like an upsize holiday where there's no charge for upsizing. Maybe that would encourage people to go back to the 64s, which we have ample amount of. One of the things that we can consider doing as well to alleviate maybe some internal work on our staff and finance as well is to maybe look at not giving away the bags, stop the voucher program, but reduce the cost of the bags. Seems to be a sticking point with a lot of people is the cost of the bags. The previous commission set that at $3 a bag, so maybe we can look at reducing that, quite a bit. But then stop giving them away.
And when you say stop giving away, you mean every time they pay their fee?
Right now, we give them six bags every 6 months. And that's pretty labor intensive to collect and coordinate, and we're sending vouchers to people who don't have a bill.
So are we picking up a lot of the blue bags? Or is it we're giving out a lot of bags, but people aren't really using them because they don't need to?
We do pick a lot of them up, but I don't think that everyone uses all of them either.
I've used one. Commissioner Hayden, go ahead.
Well, just the cost breakdown of that. I mean, it's 12 bags per year for 10,000 households.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then we're charging $3 a bag.
Right.
I mean, it's a big number of money we're giving away.
Read through, Commissioner? Mm-hmm. Okay, Commissioner Haynes, then Commissioner Bowers.
I know we have an excess of the 64s.
Yes, sir.
Now, I know it was a guesstimate when we purchased those.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone in the country that may have an excess of the 32s?
Right.
Okay, a trade?
Hey, these because that would make sense.
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't have to do a lot of, swapping up or down.
Not that I'm aware of. There, and to go and try to sell the 64s would be at a pretty big loss. There's not a big market for resale of them. So unless we found someone directly who was interested in buying them.
Exact same thing we had.
Okay.
No, my hand was wet. I didn't mean to spray anything.
And so the other issue is if changes are made and it seems like there's a little bit of ebb and flow. As soon as the bills go out, a lot of people go to the 32s, and then it slowly during the course of the 6 months kind of drifts back, and people start asking for the 64s again. Okay. And so, that's one thing maybe about limiting the time that they can do that too, is that it's not this back and forth, dance of different cart sizes that, we have staff members that's all they do is
right.
is track carts and another person who tries to deliver carts.
I've actually seen them, and I've only really had 3 sets of complaints, and I think we've been working on some. And of course, it was addressed earlier. One was apartments, and that looks like we're kind of getting some there. And the other ones is seniors, and it was only ones, but when they got the extra bags, they could carry bags. Their heel was coming up. They could drop the bag off where they, even when they drive out, but they couldn't do that. And I think they got some extra bags in those. And the other one was these families, I don't know what you call them, but I think they have some disabilities because it's a lot of people in that, and it's only in certain neighborhoods. I think we have 3 in my neighborhood, and a lot of times I just take some of their trash, stick it in mine, because I don't want them to get fined, because, you know, they're barely kind of making it right now.
Well, within the ordinance, there's language that allows us for topographic or physical needs that they can request and receive bags to use instead of the carts. And then there have been cases also with medical exemptions that have been granted for people who have either family members with conditions that generates a large amount of non-recyclable waste that they need to dispose of, and so we're able to within the language of the ordinance to address those. So if anyone just contacts our office, we can work with any of those families to address that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bowers, you had a question or comment?
I guess I have a couple of comments. I think that this is just my one woman's opinion, but I think this whole garbage issue is just way more complicated than it needs to be. I think citizens want services, and they want services that are simple and simple to understand. And some of the comments I've heard are, if we only knew when the free days were. And this is just my one woman's opinion again. We've got all of the 64s left. I think it's just, let me just say, ridiculous that people have to use our blue bags. If we have 4 free days a year, let them buy their own bags at Kroger's, and then we're out of the bag business. We don't need to be in selling the bag business. I mean, it's something we don't need to be doing. Make it simple. Simple is what people want. Simple is easy to adhere to. But right now it's so complicated, and we've spent a term dealing with it. Get rid of the bags. Let people have the big cans. Charge them whatever we need to charge them, if that's $5 a month or whatever it is. And if you want to keep the free days, have the free days. Let everybody know when those free days are going to be. Somebody said to me today, if I knew at the beginning of the year when the free days were, I said, yeah, but what if you're out of town on those free days? So maybe have a free day once a month, like the last of every month or the middle of every month. But have your free days more on a predictable, regular schedule. Let the people buy their own bags. Get us out of the bag business. And just make it simple. It's just too complicated. It's not complicated for me to understand, but I have 3 jobs, and I don't have time to keep up with the city's free pickup day. I just want to roll my trash out, have it picked up. I can go to Kroger's and buy a bag. I don't need the city to give me a voucher for a bag. That is paperwork. That is staff time with those vouchers. I just think we're trying to make something that has been simple for the history of Frankfort and was simple and could be simple again, complicated for no good reason. I don't want to be talking about trash in April or May. Let's just make it simple. Get rid of the bags, give them the 64-ounce gallon cans, charge them what we need to charge them, decide what that needs to be, and just make it simple again. And keep the thing you have where people can call in if they have a problem, they can't roll the cart out, it's too big for them. I have a few friends that, quite frankly, the big cans are bigger than they are. And I'm not a small person, but when I try to roll out the big recycle for the parents, it's bigger than I am. So, you know, make allowances, make it user-friendly. We are to provide a service, not to make the citizens feel intimidated by our processes. So, you know, Mayor, my thing is get rid of the bags, give everybody a big can if they want it, the 64 if they want it. Have the free days regular once a month, pick a week, any week, 1, 2, 3, 4, and have it the same every month, because there are people that go to Florida for the winter, or they go to the mountains for the summer, and they might miss the one of 4 free days. So it's not convenient for them, and they're not here to serve us, we're here to serve them. So that's my recommendation. Get rid of the bags, give everybody free free cans, $10 a month cans, whatever you want to charge, and let them buy their own bags and get us out of that paperwork business. We don't need to be in it. That's my one of like many suggestions, or my many suggestions rolled into one.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hitt.
Can I address something before?
Sure.
If I may?
Is that Commissioner Hitt?
Is that all right? I
Yeah.
Okay, go
want
ahead.
to make one point, if I may.
Yeah.
When you talk about getting rid of the overflow bags, that's fine. But the cost savings in a program, in any trash program, is going to automated pickup. And that's the truck with one driver with the arm that picks the can up and dumps it. And anytime we have anything outside that can, that negates the cost savings, because you have to either stop the truck and the driver get out and load the bags, or you have to have extra people.
I'm not talking about getting rid of bags. I'm talking about getting the city out of the bag selling business or the bag voucher business. People can buy their own bags. I bought bags for all these years that I've lived
Right.
here.
But if those bags are outside the cart, that slows the process.
Well, what I'm saying is those bags could be used on the free days.
Okay.
In other words, if everybody has the big can, if you have a question, how much trash do I have? I know that I have the little can, and I was recycling before this all started. But I only have to roll out my trash can, and it's the small one, about once every other week. I have gone 3 weeks. My recycle fills up, and sometimes I have to drive it down to Rouse Avenue with the overloads, not very often. But what I'm saying is, if people have a question, and you're going back and forth with the cans, and they're downsizing and upsizing, it's a waste of staff time, it's inconvenient for citizens. Anybody in question, just give them the 64-gallon can. A family's going to need a bigger can than a single person is. So give them the can, charge everybody the same amount. And then on the free days, which I think need to be more regular, once a month, because, you know, I don't want to, this is not me, but Joe Blow citizen that has a family doesn't want to delay my vacation by a day because I don't want to miss the free day, and I've got all this trash I need to get out on the free day. Just have a free day once a month. Let the people put it in the bags that they bought from Kroger, Walmart, wherever they bought the bags. I'm just saying we need to quit taking on more work that's busy work, in my opinion, and keeping up with the vouchers is just something we don't need to be doing. So I'm not saying that they should throw their bags out all the time, but there are those days that you allow them to put our city bags out now. Let them put their own bags out. Let them be responsible for finding the bags and paying for them, and let's not sell bags. That's just my thought.
Commissioner, go ahead.
There's a few things that you brought up. The one that I totally agree with, that during this whole thing, when we discussed this with the previous commission, was I wanted the last week of every month to be a free pickup week. I wanted for turnover, and if apartments are getting moved out, that the landlord would know and everybody in town would know that the last week of every month would be a free pickup week, and it would be consistent. I like that point. I brought it up before, and I'm glad that you agree.
Makes sense.
As for the bags, the bags are part of the program. Is that the bags are for overflow bags. They're not for free days. You don't use the blue bags on free days. You use your own bags that you buy at the store for free days. The blue bags that you buy are for overflow that we give out, so that if you have a birthday party in the middle of June before the pickup day, or even a free week, if it was the free week, that you would have that bag to supply and throw out your extra stuff. And to me, it sounds like you're wanting to propose a flat fee versus even a pay-as-you-throw system. Is that true? Am I interpreting what you're saying?
I'm suggesting we make it simple. It was simple for years, and it worked, and it was one of the best services that Frankfort had, quite frankly. And I would like to take it back to simple. I would just like it to become simple. We provide a service, and if we have to pay a flat fee, however you want to do it. You're telling me that citizens are calling, they're downsizing, then you're dancing, and you're upsizing and downsizing and upsizing. If everybody just had the big can, if that's what they want, I don't want one because it doesn't fit in my garage. The whole thing about the cans, I don't like it all because it doesn't fit in my garage. So now I have to walk out in the mud and drag them through the mud. I've never liked the system, and I still don't like it, but I'm willing to continue with the system because that's what's in place, and I think it's unsettling to citizens when changes are just constantly being made, just like it's unsettling on your end when upsize, downsize, and we don't want to do that to the citizens, but I'm saying we have the opportunity to make it simple again, make it work, whatever we need to charge, you all figure that out. But I think that it's just, it's so complicated when it just doesn't need to be. So I'm just saying, let's get rid of the whole bag issue from the city end. Overflow you wouldn't need if everybody had the large can, that wanted the large can.
May I continue on, Mayor?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I apologize, I was responding to something, I've got,
Okay. I am a family of 4. I have the smallest can, and I can say that I have used 3 overflow bags since this program has initiated. The idea of this program, as Tom brought out, when the former commission put this together, was to decrease the amount of garbage we were sending to the landfill and to increase recycling, of which this program has done. I would like to firmly believe that this program is doing that, right?
Yes.
If the rest of the commission wants to discuss taking this pay-as-you-throw program and go into a flat fee, then I will not be a part of the discussion. I will, however, be part of a discussion to work on amending what is already written. I would support making the last week of every month a standard free pickup week. Most of the stuff people put out, we probably aren't even going to have to pick up anyway because all the hoarders and everyone else will pick it all up and take it away. But they'll all know.
Until the hoarders go, and until the hoarders move.
But,
sorry, it's okay.
And the other thing I do agree that we need to look at is the bags. That if we have 10,000 households a week that we're picking up and we're giving them 12 bags a year at $3 a cost, that's $360,000 a year that we're giving away in bags. If my math is correct. And maybe that's something we need to look at.
The bags don't cost us.
No, the bags don't. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
The bags don't cost us $3. That's the $3 is the
Okay,
service.
the bags cost us what? 15 cents?
Probably 25.
A quarter each?
Yeah. The previous commission set the price of the bags.
That's a big markup.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was the intent. It was the intent of the previous commission that amount paid for the service of disposing of what's in it, not for the physical bag itself.
Yeah. And the other thing that I thought was happening, but I guess isn't, is that when we would buy the bags at the store, that there would also not be the extra 6% sales tax on them. But it's been confirmed that the 6% sales tax is going through at the register at Kroger or Pick Pack when you buy it, and it's not a flat fee.
I'm not sure about that. I'd have to check into that.
You pay sales tax. You pay sales tax to the revenue cabinet if we sell the bags here, or Kroger pays the sales tax. It's a retail purchase,
So we're selling them at $3 plus 6%.
Huge markup.
Which I was under the impression that there would not be an extra sales tax. We can't fight it, it's state law.
you don't have any choice there.
So I would be for looking at more pickup days that were more frequent, that people would know, to make the system more consistent. And I'd also be willing to look at the bags. And I'd also be willing to look at the cart change-out days, if, so that maybe a couple months a year, we did a free change-out exchange. So if you wanted the larger cart or a smaller cart, we would do it without the $25 fee, so that maybe more people would do an exchange, but because we don't know unless we do it. We don't know how many people, if you make it an option.
Right.
They don't have any small carts.
And we don't have small carts.
Commissioner, you have further, or other commissioner want to add, or do you want to? Okay, we'll let Mr. Bradley finish up.
Just one more thing. Of course, we'll do whatever the commission asks us to do, but I would like to at least bring up the point of, as far as picking up the last of every month, we see that as potential problematic from a staffing standpoint, and would like to discuss that further. Maybe we could go to 6 times a year versus 12, where it's every other month, and try to make sure that that last month doesn't hit in the Christmas, New Year. That time's, because of the holiday, it's usually double pickup anyway, and we don't need to have a double pickup plus a free, because then we'll have guys working around the clock to pick up the amount of trash there is. And so, you know, our idea is to become more efficient in gathering the trash, and the automated system is the way to go. It's obviously what every system in the country is going to, an automated system with a cart and a truck that picks up with one person on it. So we are different in that we're doing the pay-as-you-throw, but I just want to make sure that we keep in mind that our sights are set on that cost savings of eventually reducing our labor force.
Well, reducing the labor force at a time when we need to be we talk about finding jobs and bringing jobs to Frankfort. We're talking out of both sides of our mouth. If we have jobs that need to be done right here from this angle that we've done away with, let's not talk about bringing jobs to Frankfort. It's just, I think it's ridiculous. How can it be that much more labor intensive? We were doing it every week, consistently. So are you telling me that having one free pickup day every month is going to increase the labor that substantially? Have we lost positions since this? Have we cut people out of jobs since we've started doing this?
When this program was enacted, there was a plan to, at the end of the first 2 years, through retirements and just normal attrition, that we would be down to two places, and then at the end of the 5 year, we'd be down 4.
Well, and then my goal is not to cut down on the number of jobs. My goal is to just provide the service and provide it well. If we're talking about 2 people, I think that's just negligible, especially when we're talking about all this time we spend on writing citations and collecting fees, and it's just I'm not about, like, you know, saving 2 jobs. I'm about providing the service, and I would rather have it done consistently every month than to say, hey, we got rid of we have one less employee now that we have to pay. I'd rather have the extra employee and provide that service and have it consistent and have some predictability for the citizens, and that's where I'm coming from.
Any other commissioners want to add anything?
I'll just save it, but I think it is doing what it was supposed to do as initial, and that was to increase the recyclables, and that's another one. And we are talking about doing things more efficient. So, you know, I don't think we're just looking at the, you know, not needing as many personnel. We're looking at an efficient way to do a job. And I kind of like your idea of the every other month, because normally people don't put out stuff every month unless they've been hoarding it for a long time. So, you know, I think that's something to discuss, and I'm trying to listen to see if there's any other direction you need from us as, you know, while we're in this discussion phase for direction.
Well, I think it's probably just, you know, food for thought, that when we come back together, we can, you know, without making hasty decisions, kind of think about all the ramifications that happen in any of these changes, and the good and the bad that could come of them, and then we get back together and we'll talk about them again, and then, you know, ultimately the commission tells us what to do.
Mayor,
Commissioner.
but don't you need a, do you want me to stop?
No, go ahead.
Don't you need a directive on whether to order the smaller cans? Last month you told us you need to kind of know that right away.
Well, as of right now, we were waiting for you all. I don't know what the commission's plans are. We can order more, but it doesn't seem like it's a good use of money if something's going to change. And so we can just put a hold on ordering and put a hold on switching out until the commission tells us what.
Commissioner. I was thinking we're going to have some cans available for folks who need something to put their trash in. So you said we have a lot of the 64 gallons?
Mm-hmm.
And how many do we have? Many of the 96 or not many?
Do you want to do a free upgrade month this upcoming month, and then just see if many people bite the bait and trade in smaller cans? You want to?
It's worth a shot.
I mean, the thing is, it's like, not everybody sits and looks at the city webpage. I mean, some of the stuff, it just, a lot of people don't even see the internet. So how is everybody going to know about a free upgrade? I mean, you know, we here at City Hall think this is the only life, but people out there just don't have time to focus on everything that's going down here and our changes. They just want it. They want to know what's happening, and they don't want it. I don't have time. If I didn't have this job, I wouldn't have time to figure out when the city's free upgrade day is. I wouldn't have time in my life to do that. And I think most people don't sit there parked in front of the city webpage to figure that out. So it just needs to be consistent. But, you know.
Excuse me.
Sir, I'll let you, what we're doing right now is like the commission and staff.
That's what I was asking for clarification.
Mayor.
Well, Commissioner Bowers, are you through?
Oh, I'm through.
Okay, Commissioner.
With all due respect, I'm not saying all this Commissioner Bowers get put on the internet. We have the State Journal here. We have access to many public places in this community of which we can put information on community bulletin boards, which include places of public interest where public attends.
I'm aware of that.
And it's all not based on the internet.
I'm aware of that, but I'm aware of the citizens that don't know. Excuse me, Mayor, I'll try not to speak anymore.
No, we're going to, I just want to make sure we don't interrupt you with you.
I thought we were having a conversation.
That's why I was trying to avoid to get conversation. We'll just like address each other back and forth.
See, it's like a work session.
I know, but when it gets tough, I want to try to keep it. Commissioner. 3. Okay. But you can
I am aware of that, but there are citizens that don't know. So.
The only, Commissioner Bowers, you through?
Unless we wanted to door-to-door all of the information, stick them on the carts when we do a pickup, stick a flyer on the carts saying, these are the changes that we're making. Otherwise, you can't guarantee people are going to know.
But the only ones that are going to be, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Bowers, I just called you Commissioner Head looking.
Okay.
Commissioner Bowers, you through?
Oh, yes.
Okay, Commissioner Haynes.
Last comment, the only ones that really going to be concerned are the ones with the problems. You know, you can see the ones that are coming in, they really addressed us, they're saying they're okay. But what's going on, even some people that, when I was campaigning, was totally the opposite. They've now told me, don't change mine. What we do here affects, the mass majority. So I still think we're moving in the right direction if we take care and look at the ones that are having problems. Because there's a system in place, and you're absolutely right. If all of the cities that are doing well now are going with the one-arm thing. I was kind of disappointed when I went to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and they don't even have a recycling. Everything's going in the trash. And they have the arm dumping it all in there. I say, what a waste. I was glad to be able to report, even though I didn't have anything to do with it, but, you know, to be able to report that we are making a difference in that particular arena. So I think that I don't want us to go overboard too far the other way. If 95% of the people are happy, we need to deal with those 5%. And see, that's where the tweaking comes in, because we are under a contract. And, you know, we don't want to do anything where it's a possibility of lawsuits into that. Well, and we do want to keep it simple. But to keep it simple, that doesn't mean we got to change, you know, a whole bunch of things.
I appreciate the Commissioner's indulgence. Normally when we have work sessions, we can be kind of relaxed, but when we get into these types of debates, I want to try to make sure every person gets a chance to be heard, that they don't feel like they got cut off or stepped on. So I appreciate your all's indulgence with that. And I want to say how much I appreciate the fact that we can do that. And when we leave, we're all friends. Does anyone else want to add anything to that? I mean, this is a complicated issue, and we're going to see that we're going to all have so many different opinions, and we're going to get different calls from folks, so it's going to be ongoing. City Manager.
I think for Mr. Bradley's purposes, the question about whether to order the 32 or not is will any of the structural changes that the board would be considering would be the either doing away with the 32s or doing away with the free program. If not, then he needs to order 32s in order to service our customers. But if the pay-as-you-throw is going to have such a structural change that we do away with the 32s or increase the price, then, you know, he needs to know that. If it's going to pretty much stay the way it is, we need to order the cans, because we have customers that need cans.
The way it is now, to make any changes, to make any waivers, we can't do it. It would take an ordinance change, which would require 2 readings of the ordinance. We could do special meetings if necessary, but I don't know that there's consensus among the board yet to make an ordinance change at this point. So I don't think that the staff has any choice but to order 32-gallon cans, unless somebody can offer a solution real quick that we could do that. How many people right now do we need to provide 32-gallon cans to?
I think it's important to note that most, or I guess all of them have cans. It's just that they're not the
right size.
The right size. So they still have service, but it's just not the right size. I'd have to find the final count, because I'm sure there were even some that came in today.
Okay.
I know that we had. Do you know how many right now, David?
What's that, 64?
No, 32s requests that are still out.
It just gives back, we've got 10 right now that's requested. We don't
10?
have to fill right now.
Okay.
But that changes every day.
Looks like we have no choice.
Well, we'll use up the 31st, but then.
Well, thank you. All right, that's pretty much it on discussion items. And so I was going to tell you, just so you'll know, normally try to include everyone, but when we have these procedural things, thank you for your patience and understanding. You can talk to us individually. Commissioner Bowers.
I have a question, so are we going to have something on the agenda with this in our next meeting, or was that discussion just for discussion's sake?
Well,
what are we going to do with this?
I think at this point, it was just to at least get a conversation going, because so many of constituents have told us so many different, we've all gotten input so many different ways from people that support everything as is, others want to make some changes. Commissioners seem like they want to still think about ways to tweak it, but at this point, it'll be up to you if there's a majority that want to put this on. We don't have any proposal, I guess, is the problem. There's really nothing
I guess that's what I'm asking.
to put on the agenda to discuss. I mean, so at this point, everything for now, would remain the way the ordinance is written, and any changes need to be made would require an ordinance change, so we would have to get some type of proposal written and reviewed. And then anything that we do is going to make some type of a change to a process or require probably an appropriation, could require an appropriation. So it is.
Well, I guess this will be year 3 we're talking about this. I would just like to put it to rest. I would like to, and I know our solicitor said we're not going to make motions tonight, but if there are some things that could be agreed upon before the vote meeting, or if our solicitor wants to incorporate all of these things that have been said and come up with something that addresses some of this, or not, Mr. Moore, I can do that. I'll just come up with it myself and present it and put it on the table and let us look at it. And if we don't like it, we don't like it, and if we do like it, then we can give it to you to put it in legal form.
Of course.
And take into consideration everything everybody said, and I can make concessions, and we can all make some concessions. If we can make it better, then it is. And I don't want to get rid of the whole program, even though it's inconvenient for me, dragging it through the mud. I still think, I have had people tell me that they have gotten used to it and they're okay with it now. I would rather it had never happened, but it's here, and I think people are getting used to it. But I think there are things that we can do to make it a little better. So why don't I do that? Just draft something, bring it to the next meeting, pass it out. If people like it, we can direct the solicitor to legalize it.
Legalize
What do
it.
you think?
In the meantime, you still
just
ordering
walked a
those
circle.
other units.
Well, I just don't want to leave this meeting tonight thinking we just wasted 30 minutes talking about garbage again, and nothing's going to happen from it. Because we talked about it, it's all I heard for the whole term I wasn't here was garbage. And if we are serious about addressing the problem, let's address it. And if we're not, let's just don't bring it up anymore, please.
I think, Commissioner, that would be fine. And then if
Okay.
other commissioners want to add anything to it, we can write up something and submit those for everyone's review, if that's okay, to expedite. All right, any other items? If not, next item is a closed session for KRS 61810 sub 1 sub C to discuss property.
I move that we go into closed session for KRS 61.810 sub 1 sub C.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Haynes, seconded by Commissioner Hidden. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Haynes?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowers?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden? Yep. Mayor May?
Yes, thank you.